Past midnight. Oh, Texas. Oh, Texas time. No good old Texas. There you go. As long as you're home by midnight, you're doing all right in Vegas. All right, couple of quick action items. Did someone leave a black book called Field Notes in it? It's got some personal information in there. I'm just saying, you got a weird sense of humor. I'm just making it up, trying to embarrass somebody. Anyone? Black book? All right, if this is yours and you're too embarrassed, it'll be backed by all the computer stuff on the table. Second, this is the one. You have seen several folks in the room wearing this amazing shirt. Right, this is created by Frank, old guy REI, and his wife. You may not know the story of this, right? So year one, Frank's here. We do some ORAT raffles and keychains and books and whatnot, and we make a donation on top of what I already give to the Blind Center, right? The visually impaired, helping Clark County. Frank reaches out to me kind of midway through, between year one and year two, and sends me this. He says, do you approve? Can I use your logo? Of course. But he goes one step further. He goes, I want to sell these, but I want all of the proceeds to go to the Blind Center. So there are some shirts upstairs. Medium, large, and extra large, I believe, are the only ones left. My crowd's full of skinny people, so smalls are gone. But if you have a heart to give and donate and you want a little memory, this shirt is upstairs as supplies last. And every shirt sold, 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the Blind Center. So again, that's the kind of people we attract. And go get yours. Thank you, Frank. Cynthia, thank you. All right, so we are into day 2. And let's try this raffle one more time. Everybody get their ticket? Yeah, I'm done. All right, we'll just do the last 2 digits. 022, 022, 22, 022. Are we going to do this again? All right, what number should I call? 33! 20! 147. All right, we got 3. If I just called your number, come up. What? Oh, you're 22? Come on up. Let's give some shirts away. Come on. 48. Come on, let's give. Come on, come on. Yeah, if you get a shirt, go take it. Yeah, tell me before I go. I can turn these on if you need more. Oh, good. All right, so there's the raffle. Just come up and get what I have, and I'm out. Yeah, done. I'm not sure I'm doing that raffle again. That did not work. We tried it, didn't work. Not next year. All right, now to what I care about. We're going to get, remember, folks, this session, year 3, was about Gen Z and really blowing up, frankly, excuses. Who remembers just the story of Andrea yesterday? Can you, I mean, seriously, could you imagine getting your dream job? That all that took her to her dream job, which was not fun, I'm sure, and then you leave all of that behind and you start being a maid and delivering pizzas? I mean, I don't want to hear any of y'all bitch, because I'll just send you that video. I'm going to keep that and send that to all the whiners and complainers. So, but with that said, we've got another amazing guy coming up for you. He's one of the latest additions to my weekly Millionaire series. Dylan and I speak Monday at 10:30. Where'd he go? Tuesday at 10:30. I don't know what day it is most time, because I just don't have a job. That's a good problem to have. It's like, what day is it? Who am I talking to? But at the end of the day, I'm going to bring up an excellent gentleman. He will be one of your favorites, as he is mine. Somebody that I go to for mindset and coaching. And yes, I know he's younger than my daughter, which means he's a baby, in my opinion. He's a decade younger than my daughter, which means he's really a baby. But with that said, let's bring Dylan to the stage.
All right, I want to start by asking all of you a question. Raise of hands. How many of you are working really, really hard for the life that you want? Raise of hands. How many of you, keep your hands raised if you're working a 9-to-5 job still, building the life that you want? A lot of us in here. Figured there would be. Okay, hands down. How many of you are working really, really hard, and be honest here, you don't have to raise it if it's not true, but are working really hard for a life that looks really, really good on paper, but feels empty in your chest? I'll raise my hand. The question I want to ask in the context of this presentation is, what game are you playing? That's a question I've been asking myself a lot lately. There I am, because I was playing the wrong game for a while. I raised $5 million on private capital when a lot of people told me I couldn't. I bought and sold $15 million worth of real estate. And I've been to multiple countries with a lot of really cool people, all before my 26th birthday. It's tomorrow, so I'm celebrating with you guys. And then I quit. I quit. I was doing fix and flipping and wholesaling for a really long time. And yeah, you guys will realize why I quit. I'll keep that for the end. But I'm going to give you today 3 cheat codes that allowed me to get to the top of the mountain, because by every metric society uses to gauge success, like the capital raising, the properties I flipped, the properties I owned, the things I was able to do, by every metric society uses to gauge success, I won. And to use the cheat codes I used to win that game, I'm going to give today. But before I do, I want to tell you a story. It's a story of a friend of mine, and I did ask his permission for me to tell it, but I grew up with him. And I've never told the story publicly before, so you guys are going to have to bear with me. I'm going to read it from my phone because I have to get it right. Give me a second. Now, the reason I'm going to tell you this story, if I didn't, you won't understand where I came from. And if you don't understand where I came from, you won't be able to understand why I can't play their game, why I physically cannot play their game. Okay, like I said, I've never talked about this publicly before, and I really, really want to get this right. It's 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. The sun hasn't gone down yet. But inside this trailer, it might as well be midnight. The linoleum sticks to his feet. My friend is standing in the kitchen, if you can even call it a kitchen. He's 4'0", reaches up on his tiptoes, fingers curling over the edge of the cabinet, pulls it open. Nothing. He stares at the empty shelf the way that you'd stand at a vending machine that just swallowed your last dollar. He closes the cabinet. He opens it again. Because when you're a kid, you believe in magic. You believe that maybe just this time, something will appear. A box of cereal, a sleeve of crackers, anything. The Lunchables are gone, and they've been gone since Friday. Pizza ones were his favorite. But unfortunately, the shelf doesn't answer back. So he walks into the living room. His mom is asleep on the couch. She's always asleep. Now he stands there looking at her, and what's strange is he doesn't feel sorry for himself. Not yet. That comes later. Years later, when he has the right words for it. But right now, he just looks at her face and he thinks, gosh, she's so pretty when she sleeps. That's it. That's the whole thought. But here's the thing about my friend. He's not the type to stand around waiting for the world to fix itself. So he doesn't cry. He doesn't shake her awake because he's learned. Waking her up is like poking a hibernating bear. Nothing good is going to come from it. So he starts looking for her phone. Let me put this little thing here. Starts looking for her phone, fumbling around the couch cushions, reaching in between them, looking for her phone, slips his hand into her jacket pocket. Nothing. She's hidden it. She's gotten smarter. But see, my friend doesn't move, and he's done this before. So he takes the phone, he punches his grandfather's number in, Papa, he calls him. Papa always comes. He brings pizza, and my friend and his little brother would eat like kings. But pizza for them means a lecture for her, and she doesn't have an appetite for a talking to. So this time she hid the phone. Check. Like a chess move, she slid her bishop into position, and she thought she'd won. But she had forgot who she was playing against. See, the kid had been preparing for weeks, collecting quarters the same way some kids would collect baseball cards. From odd jobs, from in between couch cushions in other people's homes, from the ground outside the gas station. Not because he loved money, but because he loved options. So he saved every single one. Now he grabs a fistful, 3 times what he needs because he's already thinking 2 moves ahead, and he stuffs them into his pocket of his basketball shorts. Now the basketball shorts are a size too big. They're always a size too big, so when he's walking, you can kind of hear them cling in his pocket. He finds his little brother Braden, 3 years old. He doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't need to. My friend looks at him and says, "We're going on an adventure." Braden just nods and gets up. Nothing needs to be said. They slip out the front door of the trailer, quiet, practiced. The screen door doesn't even creak because my friend had just learned how to just close it just properly so it doesn't make a sound. Now the trailer park stretches out in front of them. When you're a kid, everything feels far, so it's only 3 minutes to the payphone, but it feels like a really long time. Eventually they make it to the only payphone in the whole park, and the quarters swing in his pocket, back and forth. Clink, clink, clink. They finally reach the payphone. The problem is he can't reach it. And of course he can't, because like I said earlier, he's 4'0". But that's okay, that's why he brought Braden. So he gets down on all fours. He presses his palms flat against the concrete. "Climb up," he tells his brother. So Braden tries. He falls. He gets back up. He tries again. Falls again. This 3-year-old with his scuffed knees and too big t-shirt just keeps getting back up. So my friend holds steady there on the ground. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't tell him to hurry. He just waits. Braden finally catches his balance. He's up there now, swaying a little bit. He's got one hand on the payphone. He's got the other one waiting for instructions. My friend feeds quarters into the slot from below and calls out the numbers. He's memorized his papa's number, every digit, because when you're hungry enough, you remember the things that save you. So Braden punches them in. Beep, beep, beep. Deadline. Quarter's gone. For just a second, his stomach drops. But my friend doesn't panic. He's planned for this. That's why he brought 3 times what he needed. He figured that a 3-year-old might miss, so he's accounted for it. He loved his little brother enough to plan around his small, little, clumsy fingers. Again, he says, calm, like a surgeon asking for a second scalpel. So Braden punches the numbers again. This time, every digit. The phone rings. Papa picks up. Check bait, Mom. Papa makes a drive. He brings pizza. The boys sit on the floor of the living room. The pizza box is open between them. They don't use plates. They eat with their hands. The cheese pulls in long strings, and Braden has sauce all over his chin, and neither of them cares. And they eat until their stomachs hurt in a good way, the opposite of how they hurt an hour ago. Nothing is fixed because the fridge will be empty again by next Thursday. But tonight they feast. I've never told that story of my friend before. Definitely not out loud, and definitely not like that. Because that friend of mine, the one who opened the cabinet twice hoping for a miracle, the one who memorized a phone number like it was a prayer, the one that got on his hands and knees so his little brother could stand tall enough to reach, that friend is me. See, that night I had 2 choices. I could ask the wrong question. How do I get taller? And I can't. Not today. Not when it mattered. Or I could have asked a different question. What do I have, and how do I use it? Because while I didn't have height, I had a little brother. I didn't have a phone. There we are right there, just so everyone can see. There's me and Braden. Got caught up in the story, forgot to do my clicker. Because the truth is, I didn't need to become taller. I needed to become the ladder. See, what a lot of people do is they stop at what they don't have. I don't have money. I don't have connections. I don't have time. But it's the wrong question. Because if you stop there and you don't recognize what you do have, there's no progress. Go back a little bit. See, that question I pondered on a lot, and it's allowed me to do what I've been able to do. Because there's nothing about me that's conventional. And you can probably tell by my crazy sweater. Let me see. So because I've been asking myself that question ever since, it's led me to my cheat codes, because I view life as a game. So the first cheat code is the XP bar. Now I'll tell you how I discovered this cheat code in life. Because when I first got started in real estate, I didn't want to do anything with real estate. My dad did it, and my head was, it's a big head. I don't know if you guys can see it from the people in the back. It might be eclipsing you guys, but it's big, and it was even bigger then because I was 20 years old, and my ego was the size of this room. I took a chance with my dad. COVID had happened, and started cold calling, and I was awful. Now, I had a dad in real estate, so my story's a lot less cool, but I wasn't any good at sales, and he was trying to grow his fix and flipping business and didn't really know how. So he gave me an opportunity to cold call for him, and I wasn't any good. And so it took me 20,000 fucking cold calls before I got any deals, which is a really, really long time. And some people might call it smarter. They think I was really good at sales, but I think I'm just really ignorant and dumb, and so that's why I stuck with it. Someone asked me yesterday, why'd you stick with it? I don't know, actually. That's a good question. See, I believe life is about living well. A lot of people would have quit, and truth be told, I don't know why I didn't, but what I didn't realize, and I try to tell younger people this all the time, and I think a lot of you would still find resonance in it. Each conversation is making you one conversation than you were before. And we get too focused on money. That's what I was focused on really, really young. I wanted to get rich quick. I tried all the side hustles, and I couldn't figure out a way to get rich. But all of these cold calls, I was measuring the deals I was doing. Shit, I'm not doing any deals. I'm failing. This sucks. And it was hard to stay in the game. It was hard to stay in the game mentally because I was just focused on, if I'm not making money, I'm losing. But the reality is life is about leveling up. And eventually, 20,000 cold calls in, 2.5 years in, I finally got a call with someone that was ready to sell. But the difference this time is I was ready to fucking close it because I had done 20,000 cold calls. So I closed the deal just like I had done 100 times before. Well, at least I had done it in my head. Then it was a second deal, and then a third one, and then within a year I had done 45. Or within 2 years I did 45. I don't want to stretch the truth there. Because the reality was the currency that I was actually gaining was a currency I didn't even know about, which was skill. So every hard conversation, this is a frame that's helped me, every hard conversation is 1 XP. Every rejection is 1 XP. 1 dragon slayed plus 5 XP. So what I want you guys all to do real quick is I want you guys to close your eyes for a second. Actually, close them here for a second, please, with me. I want you to think about your own dragon that you're wanting to slay right now. Maybe something that you're scared of. Are you not doing it because you're afraid of failing? Because what if it was just XP? You can open your eyes. Yeah, sorry for the older people. It's experience points. So I grew up playing video games. And in order to beat certain levels, you have to gain what's called XP. That's an acronym for experience points. If you can gamify life, it makes it easier to create distance from you and the goal, right? Or you and, I guess, how you're framing the game. So for me, the more I gamify what I'm doing, the easier it is for me to do it. So think about the dragon you want to slay and realize it's just experience points, whether or not it goes good or whether or not it goes bad. See, because here's the XP bar. This is game theory. A lot of people stop at 63 XP because they're focused on winning and losing, right? But if we change the metrics of what winning actually is, and we're just focused on playing the game, we can realize that the breakthrough is at 100 XP. But see, what happens is that bar gets full, and then eventually you become a small fish in a bigger pond. So it resets again. So then you have to get more XP. So it becomes, life is just about playing the game. Because the best games in life aren't won or lost, they're only played. You can't win a life, you can't win a marriage. You just play. So instead of it being a loss, could it not be XP in disguise? Can you not just fail upwards? See, I didn't have a ton of sales experience. I didn't have the belief in myself. I doubted myself pretty much the whole way, but I just took a lot of action, to be honest, and I think it was just dumb, to be honest. But because I had 20,000 cold calls, I decided to give all of that XP, that skill, all those reps, I gave them away for free, which leads me to cheat code number 2, which is the surplus principle. I believe that if you should give 60 and take 40 from your relationships, bare minimum. That is my opinion, and it's worked for me. You could tell me it doesn't work, but I know it does. Maybe it doesn't work for you, whatever. So if you give 60, you take 40. If you apply this principle in your life, it takes a really, really long time to compound, but I think it compounds way faster than money ever will. There's an entrepreneur I really like. His name is Naval Ravikant. He says all the returns in life, whether, I'm doing this off the top of the dome, so bear with me here. All the returns in life, whether Relationships, wealth, or knowledge come from compound interest. If you can apply that to other things too, outside of money, it becomes easier to play the game. Because I believe that magic happens in the surplus. If you stay in the surplus, you constantly give to your relationships over and over and over and over again without expecting anything in return. The key is you can't expect anything in return. Magic will happen in the surplus. So I created I guess you can call it a formula. This is stuff I actually believe, by the way. I spent 20 hours on this presentation to give you guys unconventional wisdom. I believe in this formula that I created called the surplus principle. I believe that your relationship value, okay, is equal to the deposits you make minus the withdrawals you take multiplied by time. Meaning, if I take more than I give over a long enough time horizon, my relationship value is going to be very bad. If I give more than I take over a long enough time horizon, it will compound. Now, I know this probably sounds a little weird, and I got some shit for it online, but I think you should look at relationships like financial instruments. It becomes a lot easier. I'm not saying you should try to use your friends, but I am saying that if you look at your friends like they're stocks, and you are willing to share skills, you are willing to make a connection, you are willing to help them without the expectation of return, you are making deposits in the bank. Now, the things that you ask for, the favors that you ask for, can you make a connection? Can you do this? Can you do that? You're pulling out, you're taking withdrawals from the bank, okay? And we all can recognize this is why I'm using the analogy of a bank. We all know what that means. If I take more than I have in the bank, I'll eventually have nothing. And if I can place the right things with the right people, right? If I can use my friends as stocks, and you recognize someone that's ambitious, and you give them a hand with a skill you have, a connection you know, a resource that you might have, eventually that'll compound. But you can't do it with any expectation. Because the reality is a lot of people struggle. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, well, people are out to F me. That was a quote from him. Or I'm synthesizing it. It was a long conversation. But if you think like that, it's true. It's true. You have to believe that you gotta know you're gonna be taken advantage of. The more people I give to, the more people that are gonna take advantage of that. But just like you invest in the S&P 500, not for all the stocks that are gonna do good, but for the 10 that do. That's how you need to approach it. I believe relationships are like financial instruments. I think it'll help you guys a lot. And eventually, after giving so long, right, because I didn't know how to get a deal. I didn't know how to get a deal. I didn't know how to do all these things. I doubted myself in a lot of ways. I didn't know the how. But what happened is because I had given without the expectation of return, when I learned a skill, I would share it with someone that maybe I think it could help. I learned content. I wanted to give this to you. I paid for this thing. I want to just give it to you just because I want to see you do good. And I meant it. And people could feel that. And eventually, I became the hot girl, right? And everyone wants to date the hot girl. People started coming to me with opportunities. Hey, do you want to do this deal? Do you want to be a part of this apartment building? Hey, can I give you some money? And this is genuinely what has led me to my success. Everything about my story is unconventional. But because I gave to the right people a lot of times, and more times than most people would, because I was not afraid of being taken advantage of, eventually I had more opportunities than I knew what to do with. Do you guys see what I'm saying? I believe that if you give value to people that you want to become, okay, this is key, everybody else takes. I like inverting things, okay? If I want to hang out with successful people, a better question to ask is what are all the things I could do to make sure I don't hang out with them? A really good way to make sure that you don't hang out with successful people is by taking a lot and never giving. Don't take action on the things that they do, right? So if you give value to people that you want to become, you get to learn how they think because everyone else takes, no one else is trying to give. And if you learn how they think, you unlock their cheat codes, which is a more priceless thing in my opinion. Not for the business you can do right now, but so you can learn how they choose to play the game. Because in real estate, as an example, there's real estate agents, there's investors, there's developers, there's guys that own big apartments, there's syndicators. There's so many different ways to play the game, and there's all these micro ways to win the game in real estate. As you continue to hang out with bigger people, you learn their cheat codes. But you only do that if you're actually investing in that relationship and you're not trying to focus on what you can receive from it. Because a lot of people look at what can I do to transact today. I'm not even looking to transact. I want to know how you think. And this has worked really well for me. I believe that magic happens in the surplus. I really do. I'm not going in with trying to transact today. I'm not trying to figure out what they can give me. I believe that if you give to people over a long enough time horizon, you build a reputation around giving. And people want to be around ambitious people. People want to help people that help people. It's very simple. I think we overcomplicate things. I'll give you some examples of ways that I did this, again, being unconventional, okay? When I first got started in social media, I didn't have any money, but I really wanted to do it, and I wanted to learn from people that knew how to do it. So there's a guy in my area that ran a lot of podcasts for people. Okay, I was trying, how can I get something from this guy? How can I barter and trade something I don't have? How can I be creative and make sure I give first? He had advice I wanted, so I found out his daughter wrestled. Well, I wrestled in college. Maybe his daughter would want to get better at wrestling. And maybe if I offered to coach his daughter in wrestling, would that not result in a really high skill that he could pay for? But what if instead of money, what if I asked him to coach me on social media? So that's what I did. When I first got started in real estate, someone gave me a script, but I didn't know how to do it. I needed sales coaching. So I went to a buddy who had been doing it for 2 years, and instead of me saying, hey dude, can you coach me on how to do real estate? Can you coach me on how to talk to people? Instead I said, hey dude, I have this script that you gave me, I don't really know how to use it. Do you have leads that you want to call but haven't and you've been pushing them off that are throwaways that I could learn on, and in exchange, could you teach me how to talk to them so I make you money? He's like, that's a great idea. Yeah, I will. Because I'm choosing to invest in that relationship. When I had those 20,000 reps of cold call, I chose to give it all away. There's a coach in my area. I actually already paid him money. I already gave him dollars, but I wanted to continue to invest in that relationship because I'm looking in tomorrow. I don't want to just try to transact. I want to learn how he thinks. I wanted to become someone that if I call, he'll answer on the first call. So I had all these reps, and I'm like, man, what can I give to a guy like this? I can't give him money. He already has a lot of it. That's not going to move the needle. So I go to these coaching events. We have these little intimate masterminds. There's probably 25 people there. I keep hearing the same thing in this community. Oh, like I wish I had more accountability. I wish I could be better on the phones. And I hadn't really done very many deals yet, but I was really, really good on the phones because I did 20,000 reps. I got really good at talking to people. So I said, hey, Mr. Coach, could I coach your students for free, like once a week? Because everyone said that they need this, and you're probably too busy to coach them on that really specific skill. I have that skill. Don't even worry about paying me. I'm just happy to do it. I did it for a year, and I also did it for another coach, and I still haven't asked them for anything. And it's not about you're creating what's called relationship IOUs, where the magic happens in the surplus if you're not actually cashing them in too much. Because what's going to happen is when you need a connection or you need help, people will be willing to reach out to you because they never forget that you actually were trying to help them. Okay. I'm going to talk about the cheat code number 3, which is the belief gap. This is for, raise of hands real quick. Did anyone in here struggle with doubting themselves? Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. Me too. Me too. My entire wrestling career I have, my entire life pretty much. A lot of people when I got started in real estate, they would ask me, hey, how's that real estate thing going? Because what you guys don't know about my story is I cold called underneath a bunk bed while I wrestled and had a part-time job and was in college at Cal Poly. And my buddies would be playing Super Mario Kart in the living room, and I would be cold calling underneath the bunk bed for fun. So I got a lot of questions, and one of those was, hey, how's that real estate thing going? How you doing in that real estate thing? And I'd be like, it's going, which is pretty much code for it's not working. It's not working at all. But this is now an afterthought. I didn't know this then. But like I had mentioned earlier, I was gaining this skill. I was getting XP. I was getting reps in this skill that I was trying to develop. And I believe in now what I call this formula. This is kind of a rendition of what Alex Hormozi talks about. So if anyone knows Alex Hormozi, this is kind of taken from him. But I believe now that if you do a lot of reps, it'll eventually turn into skill. And if you keep doing it, that skill will turn into belief, will turn into confidence. And if you multiply that by time, it'll get you to the result, right? So if I want to get to a result faster, I should probably do lots of reps in that thing that I want. And even if I don't believe in myself, because I didn't believe in myself for a long time, if I do that thing lots of times for a long time, as many times as I can, it'll eventually turn to skill. And then when I have the skill, all of a sudden I believe in myself. And if you keep doing that over and over again, you'll get to your result, I promise. And I'm a very, very good example of that. Again, all of these cheat codes I'm talking about, these aren't things that I read from a book. These aren't things that I just like heard one day or whatever. These are actual formulas, actual cheat codes that I've used to give myself unconventional success. Now I'm going to pull my phone out because I know I had a little transition here that was going to be really good, and I don't want to mess it up. So hang on, give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, here we go. See, when I was in the middle of those 2 years, 20,000 cold calls, 0 deals, I got all the voices were loud. Dylan, this isn't for you. Maybe you should get a real job. How much longer are you going to do this? And those weren't just other people's voices. Those were mine too, right? So it's okay to have doubt. But I believe that's the belief gap, right? That's when things get hard. And I don't believe that you have to really believe in yourself. I think that you just have to get better, honestly. So I kept going, not because I believed I could do it, but because I knew if I just did enough reps, eventually it would come, and eventually it did. So the reality is you're probably not bad at the thing that you're trying to do. You just haven't done enough reps yet. Because I didn't have belief, but I had the willingness to keep showing up. And that was enough. So again, okay, I'll do another participation, okay? You don't have to close your eyes this time. That's kind of awkward sometimes. I did that first time, and after that, I'm like, it's really weird to walk around with you guys having all your eyes closed. So keep them open this time. So think of one thing that you've given up on. I'm actually gonna pause here, so don't just stare at me, actually think. Something that you wanted, but you quit. Now I want you to ask yourself, did I quit because I was bad at it? Or did I quit because I hadn't done enough reps yet? Most of the time, it's reps. I can promise you that. Okay, now I'll be a little bit vulnerable with you guys again. I'm probably gonna have to pull my phone out again. I honestly can't believe I'm getting all this off the dome right now. Okay, so I had the cheat codes. I had the success, or at least arbitrarily what people would call me success. I had the skill now, had the order the XP, I had the surplus principle down, I had the belief gap, right? I'd done some properties, I raised some money. I made it to the top of a mountain, but what they don't tell you about success is sometimes you get to the top of a mountain and you realize it was the wrong mountain to climb. And last year, I broke my back because I'm very competitive and a little too crazy. And I was skiing down a mountain going way too fast. It was my 3rd time skiing, and the 2nd time I had done a black diamond, and so the 3rd time I was like, I'm Shaun White. So, yeah. Went with some buddies, and right off the lift, I was going 40 miles an hour, took a jump, and I flew like 40 feet in the air. I wish someone played like Fly Like an Eagle. It would have been a lot funnier. But they didn't. But you know what's crazy is I had all this momentum, all these properties I was flipping, all this money that I was chasing, and I had never slowed down. I was just stuck on autopilot. I was chasing more, because I still had all that doubt. I still had all those things I was trying to overcome. And I was thinking that money was going to change it for me. I really did. And I got a little bit of money. I got some rental properties, but that doubt that I had in myself still carried. And breaking my back put me down for a month, and I had to actually, aside from playing a lot of Fortnite, which I don't play video games anymore, but I did play a lot of Fortnite. Aside from that, I had to actually sit with myself and actually think about some stuff. And I heard a voice in my head that I hadn't heard in a while because I was too busy being busy. Raise my hands, who's been too busy being busy before? I figured a lot of people would. Yeah, this is why I'm telling you this story, so you don't have to be an idiot on the mountain. What I could have done then is I could have listened, right? What I heard is that I was doing the wrong thing. I really didn't like flipping houses and wholesaling the way that I was doing it, despite being very good at it, despite having the success that I was chasing. But instead of being a smart person would have probably listened to that voice in their head, but instead of doing that, I chased a bunch of things that didn't matter. Maybe more money would solve that voice. Maybe if I made a little bit more, I did a little bit more, then maybe I'd find a different way to appreciate it. I started drinking more, I did a ton of nicotine, and chasing a bunch of things that didn't matter. And I was reminded of a quote that Viktor Frankl says in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, that a man without meaning fills his idle time with pleasure. I'll say it again. A man without meaning fills his idle time with pleasure. So I want you to think, if there's times in your life, maybe even right now for you, that you're just chasing. Maybe you're drinking more than you've drank before. Maybe you're scrolling a lot more than you scrolled before. We all have a voice inside of our head that's telling us to take the action we want to take. But instead of listening, we're quiet down. And if you understand the game that you're playing and you ask yourself if you even want to win it, are you willing to make the sacrifice to get there, maybe you'd have a little bit more meaning. 60 days ago, I stopped drinking. 90 days ago, I cut out nicotine. I quit my six-figure plus real estate job because of a gut feeling. Because for the first time in my life, I actually started asking myself that question. I said, maybe if I cut out all of the vices that I'm choosing to quiet this voice, maybe I'll finally be able to listen. You know what's crazy? Is I actually didn't really even know what I'm gonna do. And I said, well, I have these skills, I have these cheat codes, but here's the problem about hanging out with successful people, is these guys, I'm gonna try not to cuss, these guys were lapping me, and I'm competitive, and they were not working any harder than me, they were working smarter than me. And I was starting to do math in my head. I said, well, how many houses do I have to flip? How many wholesales do I have to do to have that same success? But the reality was I wasn't convicted in what I was doing, right? I didn't like the avatar I was serving. I didn't like the game I was playing. And so what happened is I numbed myself. I numbed myself to accept that's the reality I wanted. But imagine if I was following my curiosity, right? I'm already competitive. What if I was curious about it? What if I actually liked what I was building? Would I not want to go a little bit harder? Could I not use the cheat codes that I learned to maybe scale up? So I started thinking, I was like, well, how am I going to do this? And so what I'm essentially doing now is I ask myself a question, because now I can actually think. I said, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And you know what's crazy? I gave up my lease to my house. I did. Yeah, I'm couch surfing right now. Truthfully, yeah, because I don't care. I'm unconventional. I believe in myself. I'll figure it out. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So a good place to start is I should probably talk to people that are doing stuff bigger than me. Maybe that would be a good way. So I talk to them. Hey, you buy big deals. That's cool. How do you do that? So they tell me, because they're excited, right? They want to know I'm not trying to take anything from them. I'm just trying to learn. And at the end of the meeting, my first meeting, I go, hey, by the way, are you looking for more deals? Yeah, I am. Me too. He's like, cool. I was like, hey, if I found a big deal, would you want to partner on that? Yeah. Was that another cheat code? I go to someone with a lot of money because they built something else. They built a business. Say, hey, I'm trying to follow my curiosity. I got these dreams of buying big deals, and I didn't like what I was doing. I quit. I'm in my car right now. I'm telling these people with lots of money that I'm in my car right now. I'm just couch surfing, going wherever my curiosity tells me to go. Say, hey, I just believe in myself so much, I'm going to try to figure this out. And so, anywho, I start connecting the dots. And so that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm like, well, I'm just going to connect these people with money, with people that need deals, and we'll figure it out. And truth be told, it's just a theory right now. So we'll move to the next one. Now, the reason I told you guys the payphone story is I want you guys to realize that that kid that was 6 years old, on his hands and knees, got what he wanted because he asked a different question. Not by asking what I don't have, but by asking what I do. Guys, I didn't have a sober mom. She's still not sober. I had 11 quarters. What I can promise you today is that you have a lot more than 11 quarters. You have a lot more people in your life that can do it. And if a 6-year-old can ask that question, I promise you guys can too. Just like I am with the big deals that I'm trying to pursue now, connecting people with money to people that do big deals and finding a way to wedge myself in between, it's the same kid. Same question. It's just a different payphone. The last thing I'll say, I'll close this out. In 5 years, you might look back and maybe you got the job, you got the properties you wanted, you got the big house, got a faster car. You won. Oh. Yet you're fucking miserable. Truth is. Or you could ask yourself different questions. You could use these cheat codes. You could make sure you're playing the right game, that it's a game you actually want to win, and realize that you don't need to be taller. You just need to become the ladder. 3 cheat codes. Remember that there's always a way. There's always a way. Your game, your rules. Roll the fucking dice. Thank you.
And of course, you're unconventional, so I found the craziest photo I can of you. Up, come on, let's get some love. I bet you don't have, oh, you actually wrestled, you may have one of those. That's funny. All right, I'm gonna pull an audible back there. There's a slide deck, I think, that says mom's photos. So obviously everybody knows that my mom, Dorothy, is here, and something she did is dug into the family archives for some pictures of me. And we put together a slide together, which is fun, putting a PowerPoint slide together with your mom. I don't recommend that, but we got it done. And I'm just gonna show some embarrassing pictures because she's here and she would be upset if I didn't show them. So I'm gonna get really, really embarrassed and laugh at me. Zuber's mom pics. All right, let's go. Oh, there's a shit, I should go. Clicker. I knew that. Oh, there I am. Oh, you guys are very kind. So I think she's gonna put up a number 6? 5. I was 5 in that picture. She always called me a team player. Yes, I'm a righty. Never figured out that switch hitting thing. There's some early, remember I was born in the 70s, so we didn't have like digital cameras back then. So I was 3 in that picture, and that to my left, your right, is my baby sister. She is 20 months younger than me. Her name is Anne. Some more family pictures. Again, I don't know, like when you're growing up, do you remember your mom's favorite holiday? I don't know about you, but that's something that always stuck with me. So in my household when I was growing up, her favorite holiday, at least my opinion, was Christmas. Because this woman would spend days decorating our tree. And these are handmade ornaments that she created year after year after year after year. I would see, like, you guys remember she told the story about pennies? Like I would play with pennies? She would do these ornaments that start as like a blank ball, and it would have like 1,000,000 beads on it when she's done. Those are all over that tree. It's the only thing I've asked for when she, when time comes, is I want some of those, because I saw her with those for years. That's my sister and I at 6, 7, probably. That's what we think. That's my first day of school. That's high school. That's college up in the right corner. I went to St. Francis. You couldn't have long hair below your collar, so I did. So I had to tuck it up with bobby pins. Yes, I'm wearing bobby pins as a boy. It's the only way I couldn't. They would cut your hair. They would literally. That's what Catholic school did to you back then. So, yep. God, these are embarrassing. That's the picture that's actually on my mom's belt. This is Mova, her mom, her and my sister and I. And that's me at one of my conferences. I think there was 5,000 people in the audience, and the story about this rabbit. There's actually a story about this. So there was about an hour presentation, and I had this rabbit simply walk behind me 3 different times. And I kid you not, I asked the audience how many times did the rabbit go by, and they said, "What fucking rabbit?" That was the hook. And then I brought him out and said, what you guys don't believe is they walked across the stage 3 different times and you're not paying attention. You're missing it. So I've always been the showman looking for the edge and all of that. So, and I think I'm done. Yes, I'm not being embarrassed. Thank you, you're very kind, very kind. All right, so Teenagers. Which teenagers showed up for the second day? All right, you guys have a treat. If you want, Cody and Dylan are willing to meet with you up in the VIP section. I'll let you get up there. If you want to go ask questions, network, whatnot, if you're not meeting Dylan and Cody, you're missing out. These two legends, I think, will be the next rock stars in a decade. So, teenagers, if you want to move upstairs, Dylan and Cody will be there. They will go as long as you're there. I don't see Dylan at the moment. I do see Cody. There, I see Cody. So they're going to head up there right now. If you show up, they'll be there. If you don't, they'll come back. But if you're a teenager, get up there, network with Dylan and Cody.
Audiobooks.
Yep. Okay, good. All right, get up there. Yeah, go. You're dismissed. Because we're going to talk about adult stuff now. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Never mind. I'm not going down that joke route. All right, with that said, we're about to get more dad jokes with the one and only Brandon. Let's go.
All right, I'm not as young as Dylan, but I was born at a very early age. That's it. I'll be at 7 o'clock tonight. No. Looking for the slide. You know, I grew up, I loved being around building. My parents built every one of our houses, and I actually was helping my mom as she was designing the houses and found out I grew to a love of real estate. And even to that, I've built every one of our houses, and I thought, as I was going to get into real estate, where would I go? And my natural passion was to build them. And so what I'm going to show today, and everyone, I don't know everything, and I mean that. I'm learning with you, so I'm going to share what I've learned, and hopefully it has some value to you, and maybe you know some things that you can teach me. But I started this journey at 49, and one of the purposes that I have now, my dad was going through something, and it was about 3 years ago my dad passed away. And I watched this, so I just started our first real estate property the year before. So I'm 54 now, so I'm only, technically for these properties, I'm only on 4.5 years, because July will be the start of the 5th year of these being active. I guess I'd say finished. My first one's finished. But I watched my dad, he worked all his life until the last days fighting for his life. He died with brain cancer, and I watched it. He was working till the day he collapsed, and he lived for 2 months, bedridden. And I said, I want to be active when I'm retired. I want to be active with my wife. I want to be active with my kids. I want to be active with my grandkids eventually, not anytime soon. My daughter is here. But that's kind of what's driving me to stay so focused and push hard every day, every year. I want to be retired in my 50s, and I have a specific number. I'm very comfortable where I'm going to be. The goal is 22 doors. With the plan of maybe with 2 of them, which learned this from Coach Carson, maybe I sell 2 of them, pay off a couple just to further secure the portfolio and have stronger cash flow. So that's my goal. It's only 22 doors. But I love that. So I had started out, I've had some small businesses, but I was ready to now transition into real estate, owning real estate. And how do I do it being quick and actually having somebody else contribute to my retirement? That's where I was at. And so what I found, well, of course, was real estate. We all know that. But let me start these clickers here. What I say is there's 5 ways to make money in real estate. And my background was I'd been a stockbroker. And I could only think of 2 ways you could make money in owning stocks, either the growth or maybe a dividend. And I said, well, real estate, you can make money 5 different ways. So the 5 different ways, and it's primarily why we can get to retirement faster in 10 years versus maybe retirement in 40, right? Is because of leverage. The power of somebody else's money, but it's healthy leverage. So the first and foremost, of course, is cash flow. This group, we all believe in going after positive cash flow for every deal. The second is principal pay down. The third is the tax advantage. So we're not paying, doing this right, we're not paying income tax. The fourth is just natural appreciation. That's the fourth one. The fifth one, I feel like I could do well with build to rent, is forced appreciation. And I think what I see, at least in my area, where the biggest opportunities are is forced appreciation, either buying on the resale side, and we're doing some type of value add to increase the cash flow and increase the appreciation of the property, or for me, it's doing it with building. So I'm going to go through some real practical, high-level parts to it. So I'm trying to alliterate the 3 Ps. And I'm going to go through some of these in the slides further, but this is the main points, is the price of the land metrics. So if you're going to do build to rent or do any buy, what's the first deal? Where you make the money? You make the money on the purchase. You've got to get the purchase right. And so I had to get the land purchases right. Now I'm going to give you all some metrics to it. The second is the prep of the lot. I'm doing infill lots. I'm not doing massive development. My other background, I was in commercial banking. One of the riskiest loans is land development. So I didn't want to get into that. You can make great money, but there's a lot of risk. So I'm buying already out there platted infill lots. But what you've got to look for is the lot. I look making sure that they're primarily level. Nothing's perfectly level, but level, because if it's not and I'm having to build a retaining wall, I'm adding cost to the property that really doesn't add value, it just adds cost. I'm looking at the drainage of the water. I'm looking because you've got to make sure you're not running that water into somebody else's property. I've got to look at the setbacks, and I've got to look at impact fees. Different communities have different impact fees. I've got to know that where I'm buying my lots. And then the final thing is the production. I've got to know my costs of my builds. So like I said, I've got the experience. What I say the advantage is for a lot of us, because we're trying to get into buying real estate with as little down, but with also the highest amount of equity in it, right? And I found that advantage in doing the build to rent. So I'm building these, only having to put down maximum, if I'm taking closing costs and all my down payment into it, the maximum is 15%. That's what I'm doing because I choose to start at 70% loan to value. I want to get the right amount of debt that doesn't put the property in jeopardy. So I'm doing that. I can do it as little as 10, and I'll explain why. But I hold my time accountable. I've had lots of people ask me, why don't you build them yourself? Why don't I be the GC? And I think a lot of people, they get down into the weeds. They can't see the forest for the trees. They're trying to do everything to extract every single dollar. If I were to do that, I don't have time to look for my next land deals. And I'm trying to explain it here on this third line here. I'm spending maybe 40 hours on every property I'm building. My builder's spending about 300. He's making 15,000, and because of the equity, I'm making 60. So run the number, I'm making 1,500 an hour. That's just off the equity I'm building. He's making $50 an hour. I'm holding my time accountable. That's why I'm not doing it. And if I'm looking at the big picture, I'm looking for my next deals. Keeping him busy, but making me money too. So that's why I'm not doing all the GC work. Plus, I don't have all the contacts. They're going to charge me higher. He's a builder. He uses the same contractors. He's getting better prices than I might get. I do have some pictures here so you can see parts of some of the builds. The operational advantages are, how about having brand new properties that cash flow? That's what I'm building. I'm building the wealth because I use the term ACV, after construction value. I've been able to build these with 20 to 22% equity day one that didn't come out of my pocket. If I'm having to put 25% down, I'm just moving pockets of my wealth. But if I'm creating it, and I call it creating it out of thin air, I'm building wealth that wasn't extracted from me from the beginning. I'm at 49, I got to move on that wealth fast. The timeline, I've got a shorter timeline. I don't have time to let the principal pay down to create it and the natural appreciation. I'm trying to find ways, I guess, to accelerate it. And doing what I love. Let me tell you, I love every build. When I'm not building one, I start getting a little itchy. I'm looking for my next one. And my wife will tell you that I get antsy about it. But it's less capital. So if it already appraises 20% more than what I need, and we're talking most loans are 75% loan to value, technically I only have to put 5% down, plus my closing costs. I'm choosing to get it closer to 70 to create a little more cash flow from the beginning, because I intend to retire here in the next few years, fully retire. So I'm trying to grow that cash flow a little stronger. I do have the money to put that extra few dollars down and starting at 70%. The thing that I want to talk about is transfer. And Mike has talked about it just recently, called switching costs. I know Cody's talked about it. So he had all these older properties, and he's realizing he wants to sell them to get newer properties. Well, is that a cost? There's friction there getting rid of those properties, that switching cost. Well, I thought of something the other day. So this is new. Y'all are the only ones that have heard this. There is, so I'm going to use what y'all say is a typical cost. If you're hiring a realtor and closing costs, I'm going to use 7%. I think that's fairly reasonable in the cost of using a realtor and title fees or lawyer fees. 7%. That's the accounting cost, but it's not the economic cost. There's a difference. If you have 80% loan to value and you sell it and it costs you 7%, you just gave 35% of your equity away. There is an economic cost, not just the accounting cost. You do that multiple times throughout a decade, you're giving up a lot of your equity. I'm playing the long game. I was thinking about this for my family. I wanted to build this portfolio for my wife when I'm gone and for my kids. I'm teaching them right now. I don't want to just give them this wealth. I have my daughter. She goes with me when I meet with the banks. I'm starting to teach her those parts of it because I don't want to just give her a fish. I want to teach her how to fish. I've got to teach her the financial literacy because we see it generations. It usually goes away second generation. And I'm trying to think about that right now, and I'm learning it too. And I know some of y'all know I teach that Gen Z group. I've got a heart for that group, teaching them financial literacy. I'm trying to teach her how to fish. I'm letting her help me. She's going next week with me. We're going to look at tile for these 2 builds that I'm doing right now. I want her to feel a stake in it. I talk to them about real estate. I talk to them about all the financials. I'm wanting to teach them when I'm gone 30 years from now, they feel attached to them. They work in them, but they're part of it. So I don't have those transfer fees. I'm intending to keep them forever because by the time I'm gone, let's just say it's 30 years from now, they're only 30 years old. But I built them right too. I don't cut corners. I build them right because I'm thinking about handing these to my wife and to my kids, and that they're good stewards of them. And things that I'm trying to teach them also. Another thing that I tell you is seek wisdom before wealth. Think about that. We've got to seek wisdom before wealth. When you have wisdom, you know how to handle the wealth. And you can multiply it because you've got wisdom. So the good thing with building a brand new is I've got no upfront costs, no upgrade costs. They're only 30 years old. Here's what a lot of people have talked about. And y'all, I do own a property management company, and I was always thinking ahead. I built the property management company before I had properties, and I hired somebody that had experience. She had 20 years experience to run it for me as I was learning it. But I learned from, honestly, all of y'all, all the other investors, which direction I wanted to go. And I watched these properties that people had that were 50, 60, 70 years old, month after month after month. You didn't know what was going to break next. And so it messes with your net operating income. Well, with new construction, I start for reserves at 8%. The metrics I hear out in the community, they say start at about 15. And depending on the properties, you might go higher than that if they're much older. I start at 8. And let me tell you, so I'm 4.5 years in, total expenses I'm on my 14th unit is less than $2,600 in 4 years. Pretty good? I've been able to build up reserves. I'm not even at the 7-year. I'm over $40,000 in reserves, and I'm not hardly touching other than vacancy stuff, because that's in there. And then I'm adding about 1% every other year, so that by 7 or 8 years, when things start breaking down, I'm going to have a massive reserve. So it's allowing me to control my costs. I actually know my numbers better. I feel like sometimes it's easier to know your numbers on brand new because you know you're not going to have the repairs, and I get a builder warranty the first year. The challenge is, I call it land banking. And this is what I've got to do because my builder's building them. I'm thinking ahead. And when I first got started, I didn't have the projects for the next 2 years. I'm pretty much ahead on that. I've got land now to get me to 27, but I've got a few more lots to go. But it's getting ahead on the land so that I got my next project as soon as I'm done with. I'm building 2 right now, and I'll have my channel at the end. I'm going to do the build back-to-back, the video series 4 or 5 in a row, and I'm going to talk about the numbers. But I wanted to do them back-to-back so that it'll build on itself and not be so disjointed I did last time. But the challenge was land banking. So the lot cost, going back to it. What I'm looking for, and these are infill lots, is 50 to 100% of annualized rents of the number of doors I can get on that lot. These are the numbers that are working for me. This is where I know if I can get the lot for that, I know my numbers from the beginning are going to start working. And the closer I can negotiate getting down to 50%, the better. I did a tax auction on a lot. Never done one before. Got it for 10 grand. That's going to be my best number one. You know, most of them are in that 15 to 20,000. But if I was looking for a multifamily, say it was for example, it's a 4-plex, and I'm able to get $2,000 a month on the rents. Well, then my budget would be 100 grand for that lot. So that's the numbers I'm using. That best I can talk, kind of help y'all to think, not just North Texas, Fort Worth area, but that's what I use. And the lot development. This one here, what I did, I worked with the city. They wouldn't allow me. I originally had, the original plan was 5 units. And these are that townhouse style. They wouldn't let me get a 4th one. I said, all right, I'm going to build these storage units on the side. It was only 10 foot wide. They were 10 by 10. I built 5 storage units on the side. And I remember watching the guy. He's sitting there trying to think how to tell me no. That's the city. I said, hey, I'm offering them to my tenants. So I wasn't able to get that 4th unit, but I got 5 storage units, and guess what? The tenants are using them. Do you think they move as easy if they got a whole bunch of junk? And so I took those 5 units and now I'm making $250 a month. And at that time, it only cost me, I think it was around $26,000 because I already had the common wall on the side. I just had to pour one little strip of concrete and finish it out. It was 26 grand. I'm making 250. Those numbers work. So like we said, the other parts, I do love design. My mother did a lot of interior design. This is what I was around. She would go decorate people's houses. And so I learned some of it. And my daughter picked some of these too. And we do it together. We match it. But going up here, so the appraisal value, it would typically come in, I would build them, give some numbers. So I'm doing some single families right now. This is in just outside of Fort Worth. I finished 2 in June of last year. I built them for $206,000. They appraised for $265,000. They rented for $2,100 a month. So they're renting for $2,100 and I only spent $206,000. Do you think those numbers might work? It's really decent cash flow on brand new construction. I'm getting $60,000 extra in equity that didn't come out of my pocket from day one. And I'm only having to put about 5% down plus whatever closing costs. And when I say 206, I'm talking 206 with the closing costs on the interim construction. That's in there. The interim construction interest carry to the loan, it's every single dollar. My construction costs, I know this can't be done nationwide, but this is where I'm at. It's costing me about $110 a square foot, $120 all in. How do you estimate financing costs? If you were to do a build right now, I've got a metric for you. I'm one of those people that comes up with these metrics. I take 35 to 40% of the loan for the construction times the interest rate you're being charged. That should be your number. If you can finish it faster than a year, it's probably going to be 30 to 35. If it's going to be longer than a year, you better budget a little bit more than 40%. So if you will say, hey, what do you do? How do you budget that interest carry? Because at the beginning, of course, it's at 0 and it's just slowly moving up. These last ones I just am working on right now. I knew interest rates were heading down, and I talked to the bank and I said, hey, I want a floating rate. And she's like, you sure? I said, no, I do. Because I knew the Fed was going to start lowering rates. And we negotiated, we got prime minus 0.5. And at that moment, it was at 7.5. Well, at today, I'm at 6.5. It just kept going down. And maybe we get another quarter point, I'm hoping. Because I thought, okay, the rate's going to be the very lowest on this loan when I have the highest balance. That's going to be the biggest interest savings. These two right now that I'm building, I'm noticing the contractors are hungry. We're getting, and I will share it in the videos, we're getting about 4%, maybe up to 5% in savings on these builds that I'm doing right now. And I'm getting it built faster. I'm about 45 days, roughly, it's not finished, but I think I'm going to finish up about 45 days faster than the ones I did just 9 months ago. Well, I'm saving interest carry too. I think I'm going to save about $1,000. I'm just rough guessing right now, what I'm getting. I know my case, the 1% rule, but that's just my back of the napkin. When I'm looking for properties, I'm looking at, okay, what are the rents in that area for what I can get for a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom? Knowing I can build for roughly right around $120 a square foot, I'm just doing a quick back of the napkin. That's how I'm finding the properties and know whether it's multifamily, single family, what I'm doing. So I'm giving you something, and somebody wants to get some more detail. I'm an open book. Jared does this too, and I love it. It's our culture. We're willing to give and let y'all learn from us. And hey, I've made some mistakes too. But how I track it, I got this from somebody else. So I track it down to the cost per square foot. So that if I'm building a multifamily and I'm getting bids and I'm getting the numbers from these contractors, I know if it's kind of in line with all my other builds that, hey, my framing material cost me on this one from last year's $12.77 a square foot. The framing, I will tell you this, the framing on the ones I just did, 23% lower. I was $4 or $5 grand just off the lumber package. And those are some of your biggest numbers. Once you get dried in, that's about 50% of the way of your big numbers. And you can know from there, hey, I'm making budget. So financial returns, this is one of the kitchens. I do these, I don't know about y'all, but 08 marked me. I still remember some of my grandparents, the Great Depression age, and how different they were with money. And I feel like our group that really went through it, it marked us similarly. And I think, okay, if things get tough, I'm building these, I build right. And I love what Casey said yesterday. Your tenants are like your properties, and your properties are like your tenants. I thought that was an awesome statement. That'll preach. That'll preach. I want to create great properties. I care about my tenants. And I tell everybody, I say they have eternal value. And I should treat them accordingly. I want to give them a nice property that I would be proud of, but we make these to where if times got tough, we could go live in one. Because I think about it all the time. Because I was scared we were going to lose everything in 08 through 2010. I'm going to keep moving faster. So first build lessons. This is the very first one I did, fourplex. I started out with a fourplex. I liked it, but here's the things I learned. The one on top of the other, I get noise complaints. I did everything I could. I insulated in between. I did everything to try to minimize it. I still get noise complaints. But there's no softscaping. It's very kind of harsh. I'm one of those, I like design and stuff. So this is what I did last year for about $1,200. I don't know if y'all can see it. I do like green and black right now. But I painted it green, painted the doors black. I don't know if y'all can see it. What I thought was interesting, every one of their doors became decorated. They put wreaths and started decorating outside their door. And I thought, Before they didn't. This is right after I painted them. All of a sudden I saw these decorations. They're proud of where they're living. Because I was having a lot of turnover here, and I was trying to soften it. I had one of the tenants say, hey, if you'll put all these hanging baskets here, we'll put some flowers up and take care of them. Are those good things, attributes of your tenants? So I had to improve the curb appeal. So I did that. The second one, I began to improve the curb appeal. Little things I did. You can see the shutters. Those came from Lowe's. I think they're $60, $65 a set. It adds curb appeal. Your tenant likes it too. They want to be proud of where they live just like we do. And so I did that. The thing I did down here, I don't know if y'all can see, it's a desk. That was going to be a closet to handle the mechanicals. We moved them up into the attic. What are people doing? More people doing? They're working at home. I turned a closet that was going to have the mechanicals into a desk space. They now have their own little office space. And I'll do nice. I do undermount lighting and put the plugs there where they can use them. I'm really thinking, what would I want? Balancing some costs. I am doing a few little nice features, but I'm not going over the top. I'm trying to put with what I thought they would want. These are the single families I've been building. A change I made, you can see from the second time I put those shutters in. This was in the garage. So it's a one-car garage, and I was looking at the subdivision, and I noticed it was a lot of just normal blue-collar workers. I saw a lot of electrical trucks, HVAC, just lots of normal people. I thought, man, what would they want? So we bumped out from this one to here. There's a little bit of an extra space here. I bumped it out and built a little space and built a workshop desk. And also big enough on the side that they could put their tool chest or put another fridge. I'm renting these in less than 7 days. I've got people waiting for me to get them done. But those are some of the things I've learned throughout. I'm trying to do what's right. Now, hopefully you appreciate this. I'll share afterwards what I can and send y'all some spreadsheets. I'm a spreadsheet nerd. But I'm tracking everything. But that's why I'm doing the build to rent. I'm thinking really 3 decades down the road. I don't want to have the switching cost. I don't want to have the economic cost of giving 35% of my equity when I sell it. I'm not going to have to sell it. So it's helping me retain that equity and not having to constantly upgrade. You know, one of the things I said, I can be impatient. My wife will tell you that. She's even looking at me. Building was slower, and it's caused me, I have to somewhat slow down. But I think it's become an advantage because it caused me to have patience. I'm having to build these, and it's taken me 6-9 months. I'm having time to pause and think about what's going on, and sometimes even planning the next build. My builds are getting better and better, and my prices are getting better and better. And, you know, I took a constraint and made it an advantage. Because if I would have been able to, hey, one right after another, I might have made a lot of mistakes. Because it took longer for the builds, it caused me to pause, and I got better. And I used that constraint as something positive. That was just using my natural abilities. But I wrote a couple things. True wealth is so much more than just money. Do we all agree? It's spiritual, relationships, time, health. You know, I watched my dad die, and it was horrible. He never got to enjoy. And I'm pressing really hard because I want to enjoy. I don't want to be like that. And I want to be around and have time for the kids and the grandkids. And I'm thinking 30 years ahead, giving the family these long-term assets that I took good care of, teaching them how to fish, and not just giving them a fish. That's it.
Brandon will be here. We're going to get back on schedule time. We got time for one question.
Hey Brandon, that was a great presentation. My question is for the youth. As a 19-year-old, what would be your first step you would take to get started with real estate?
Good one. You know what I'm teaching my own daughters, teaching these group, because you're thinking about the challenge for them getting into their first real estate. We had it different. My wife and our first, and I put it in context, my first one, we bought a duplex, $95,000. Lived in one side and rented out the other. Well, what are those duplexes now? They're 300, 350 in our area. So I'm teaching them, save up. If you're living there, you can get it for 3.5% to 5% down, renting out to some of your buddies on one side and renting out the other, because in the lending guidelines now, they were changed just a few years ago that they can count 75% of the rents. That wasn't always the case. And I believe, I hope they were doing it to help your age group, to get something, to get into the property ladder faster. The average age now is almost 40. How behind they are if that's the first purchase. So I'm trying to teach this to y'all's age group. That is the way to do it. I think that's one of the most logical ways to do it.
All right, with that, we are on our first break, 15 minutes. Back in your seats, 9:45, 9:45, 9:45, 9:45.
take, and every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. Every single day, and every word you say, every game you play, every night you stay, I'll be watching you. Oh, can't you see, you belong to me. I'm a poor aches, but every step you take, every move you make, every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you stake, I'll be watching you. Since you gone, I've been lost without a trace. I dream at night, I can only see your face. I look around, but it's you I can't replace. I feel so cold and I long for your embrace. I keep hurting, baby, baby, please. Oh, can't you see, you belong to me. Every poor aches, every step you take, every move you make, every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you speak, I'll be watching you. Every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching you. I'll be watching you. Every move you make, every bond you break, I'll be watching you. Every single day, every word you say, every game you play, I'll be watching you. Every move you make, every vow you break, every smile you fake, I'll be watching you. Every single day, every word you say, every game you play, I'll be watching you. I'll be watching you. Every single day, every word you say, every game you play, I'll be watching you. Every smile you fake, I'll be watching Let's move tonight. Share the spice of life. And it's like tonight. We gonna move tonight. Take a stroll, get your temper, it's alright, alright, alright. Just tell the DJ to play your favorite tune, then you know it's okay. What you found is happening now. Let's groove, right up the floors, it's alright, alright, alright. Let's groove, singing the show, so stand up, stand up, alright. Let's groove, get to groove, it's alright, alright, alright. Yeah, let's groove, singing the show, so stand up, alright, alright. You find peace of mind on the floor. Take a little time, come and see, move me, give a little sign. I'll be there after a while if you want my love. We can boogie on down, down, boogie on down, down, boogie on down, down, boogie on down. Let's move tonight.
Alrighty, folks, 1 minute, get your butt down. We're going to keep the party going. Do I see? Yep, there they are.
I'm gonna get the syllable wrong.
Alrighty, folks, you are going to love this next presentation. When you are in the beginning of creating one rental at a time, you write what's known as a bestseller, that you actually write for selfish reasons. If you guys don't remember One Rental at a Time, which again became a bestseller, I didn't write it for you. I absolutely did not write it for you. I frankly, in all honesty, didn't write it for public consumption at all. I started writing One Rental at a Time when I was in a pretty dark place, which is bizarre, I understand, but it is where I was. I was 45 years old, financially free. My career was taken away from me 5 years earlier than I wanted it to. And I had just called everybody in my phone, said I'm retired, but I had no more mission. And that hit me hard. I don't know why, but it did, because I didn't feel like I was contributing to the world. And my ego was so wrapped up in being the rock star at what I did that I felt lost. So again, I go through and I have crazy job offers, 400 grand, 500 grand. But it's not pulling on me because it's not the money. It's if you ever see me, it's never about the money. Right? I have bigger missions and bigger dreams. And I sit at the kitchen table. I remember it was Friday morning, and I'm by myself because Olivia's up late. I'm up early. You guys know the drill. And I'm sitting there telling myself, if I don't get out of this depression, this headspace, I'm going to get a fucking job on Monday. And I don't know what it was about that statement when I finally got to that point. And this is the next thing that I said to myself. So I finally got there, and I'd been working on this for like 3 weeks, just grinding and getting more dark and negative and negative and negative. And I said to myself, if you don't, get out of this space, you're going to get a job Monday. And then the next statement was, you're a fucking loser. I literally said that to myself because I'm like, you're 45. You don't need the money. Why are you going to get a job? And that's the moment that One Rental at a Time was born. I didn't know it yet. All I knew at that moment was I was going to document our 15-year journey. And that is the book that most of you have read called One Rental at a Time. So I write it. It's first just a PDF. And I give it away for free. The only individual that I know that read that is Millennial Mike. Seriously. I must have emailed it to 100 people. And Millennial Mike's the only one that read it, to my knowledge. And that's where our friendship was born. That's the first cusp of that. But basically, the fact that nobody read it pissed me off, right? So that's where One Rental at a Time grew, and it became the book that's now a bestseller and published. But where I'm going with the story and the couple that is coming up next, and I didn't know this at the time, I got was it email? It must have been email at the time. Talking about Facebook, maybe? Facebook. Somebody that I never met, I didn't know, sent me a picture of this young woman on a park bench reading my book. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know people did that. But that moment, that picture, I can still remember opening the email. I can still remember the feeling that I had of like, wow, there is something here. And that moment, that email, that thing was the spark that became what you guys are experiencing today, One Rental at a Time. And that couple is right over there, right? We got Ryan and Letitia coming to the stage. Oh, geez, let's go.
We have a second mic.
We'll need 2 mics. Oh, good, they're working.
That should come down.
I get a second.
Okay, he's putting me over here, so.
And then you have to stay.
Right here? Okay.
What's up, family? How you doing today? It is extremely a blessing to be here in front of all of you. And Mike and I have been, I've been following Mike for a long time. I think this is 2018. And to see what he's built here, is absolutely amazing. For you to maybe came later, I mean, just to watch the walks that he was doing with his dogs, to buying having his property in Fresno change to the hub, and just everything that he's done has just been a blessing to serve all of you. You know, we are actually here to be disciples, and that's what he's making out of each and every one of us. So I thank you for that, Michael. So I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, so. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself, and then it'll kind of pertain to some of the story that we're gonna tell today. I was in a really bad motorcycle accident in 2023.
No.
Oh, God, I'm messing up. 2003, I'm sorry. And I was told that I would never be able to walk again. So through about a year of recovery, not only did I walk, now I run, I do Spartan races, I do hikes, I do all that. So I'm very determined. And so I'm gonna tell you that it's gonna kind of play in with our story here. So today we're gonna talk about real estate, but in doing business with your spouse. And that is extremely, it's complicated. I gotta look at something real quick. So there was a study in the University of California that said they did a study on 3,900 people, marriage business people, and out of 3,900 people, one out of three end up in divorce, and that's not good statistics. And it's it was 2 times more for people. It's 2 times higher than normal couples that are just married. So we want to give you a little taste of our journey, and we want to, kind of go from there.
Oh, hi, I'm Keisha. So as my husband said, that we want to talk about from the perspective of basically building a real estate portfolio, but from the perspective of building it with your spouse. This way? Okay, so don't know, so sorry. This is different for me. We have been married for almost 15 years this year, and this is a 14-year journey. If you want, it's hard for me to see, so I do apologize, and I can't see that light there. So if you see this picture here, this is actually us from the first conference. And you guys ever have a situation where you see a picture of yourself and you know exactly where you were and exactly how you felt? That's what, when I see this picture, this is what I think of, is that this was the first conference. We were with Mike. We looked really happy and successful and smiles and everything, but what most people didn't know is that actually everything was falling apart for us. And so I get emotional, so if I try not to, I'm trying to keep it together, but everything was really falling apart for us. Our marriage was strained. We had a couple businesses that were really strained as well, and we were also stress level high. So it's important to make sure that when you are building a business with your spouse that you are in alignment, and that's one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were focusing on today. You have to think, oh, you got it. I'm like, where's the clicker?
If I don't mess up.
You wanna go ahead?
All right, so we want to talk about, 14 years of wins, faith, marriage, our journey. Okay, sorry about that. I kind of skipped something. So we do have stories, I want to let you know, later on we'll tell you about this, but there was a time in our life where we were sitting outside of a title company and we were in our cars and we were trying to figure out if we're going to make the best or the worst decision of our lives. But we will get back to that later. But so this talk is really for people that are in a relationship together, even if you're not, because you're still together. If your partner, your spouse is doing real estate, you're doing it with them regardless. So we want to be able to show you our experience with that and go from there.
We have couples in the room right now, or people are doing business together, or those that are maybe here by themselves and maybe have a spouse at home. Yeah, okay. Y'all know the struggle then, right? So we have a lot of stories, but we're not gonna tell each and every one of them, but we know how it is to, go through ups, downs. You have you're stretched thin, you're building wealth, you're trying to protect your marriage and still walk in your purpose and still be intentional. So, next one. All right, so foundation. So we both actually have, surprisingly, when we met, we found out that we both have, families that were involved in real estate. My dad had a couple properties, and then also my cousin had a ton of properties. So it was kind of like in our blood. Ryan, I think, had an uncle that was in real estate as well. A little bit about my background. I currently am an insurance agent. I in property casualty and also life and health insurance. So I'm always looking at the properties from the protection aspect.
Yeah, and I've been a union carpenter since '99. I also have my own construction company as well. I am no longer working for the union. I still have my card. I've been retired from them for 5 years now. So right now we pretty much I take care of the properties and look over our remodeling. And because of the knowledge that I learned in the union and building things from the ground up, I'm really great at construction, figuring out timeline, scheduling. So we felt that was the perfect match. Her insurance background, my construction, let's go.
Yep, so we got married. That's the reason. No, I did love them, but we did, it did kind of mesh. So this is our accident, what we call our accidental rental. This is the house that I actually owned prior to Ryan and I getting together. I owned this home for probably a few years, and then when we met, we wanted to make sure that we purchased something that was ours. But I also bought this house in 2004. So, and if anybody knows about if you were investing in 2004, they were giving money away. So I don't even know why they even gave me a loan, because I was literally making like no money, and they gave me a loan for like $90,000. Not even sure how that happened. But when we got married in 2011, there was no way I could sell this house because I was too upside down. So it became a rental, and it became our first rental. I already did the first rental.
Yeah, you already did the first one.
Yep.
So, like my wife said, when we got married, I really wanted to have a house of our own. So, for all of you to have a home and you're not started yet in real estate, this is one of the best ways, honestly, to get started.
Yeah.
You rent out the house that you live in, move to somewhere else. So that is what we did. And then after that, we actually the property we moved in was a foreclosure. This was a beautiful property. It actually didn't happen the first time. So we drove by it. We wanted to put an offer on it, but they said, hey, it's already under contract. So a week later, the realtor calls back, and this is just God working. The realtor called back and said that, hey, the property's available. Do you still want it? What happened was, so I'm thinking as a contract, what's wrong with it? Give me the heads up. What's wrong with it so I can figure out what we got to do. They said, no, nothing's wrong with the property. It was a VA loan, and the house was not enough. It was too low to be able to be approved through the VA. So we bought our first house. Let me speak on that now.
Yep.
So through that house, we were able to, since we had plenty of equity on this house, we bought this house for $120,000. After fixing it up, at that time, it was worth about $190,000. So we took a HELOC out to buy our first additional two properties. This is that house.
This is actually the house, yeah. This is actually the house that we bought, that we lived in as our family home. Like I said, we just got married, and we moved here, and we had we were raising our two daughters here.
I kind of went ahead of the slide. So the first house that we bought was $15,000. That house, we put about $15,000 into it. We kept it for a year, and then we sold it. The second house that we bought was $7,500. Now that house we still own today. We've probably refinanced that house 3 or 4 times, and it's been a blessing. So go ahead.
Got it? Okay. Go back to that slide, can you, for a second? So, as I said before, we were living at this house. This was our dream home, a ranch-style house in the suburbs, raising 2 daughters there. I can remember Ryan went out for a walk in our neighborhood one day, and I'm at home with the girls, and he comes home and says, I see a property down the street that I think we should purchase. And I looked at him like he was crazy. Like, what are you talking about? He said, it's a twinplex. We should sell our house that we had just probably bought. We've been there probably about 3 or 4 years at this time, and move there, and we should house hack. At the time, I had no idea what house hacking was. So I'm like, no, absolutely not. We are in a comfortable space, and we're going to live here. He's like, really seriously, it's in the same neighborhood. We'll be in the same school district, which the school district was important to me for the girls, even though they were not of school age yet. And we can rent it out, maybe get our mortgage paid, or at least most of it. So I wanted to kind of show you where we were going, to where we were, to where we were going. So I'm gonna go next slide. So he convinced me to do it. He gave me all the pros, all the cons. I'm like, all right, I'm trusting him. He's my husband, I'm trusting him and saying, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna sell that property. We're gonna move into a twinplex. We're gonna rent out the other side. I thought it was the craziest thing ever. But
Go ahead and tell them so we're going to go back to that parking lot.
Okay.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, so forgive us.
So that was the craziest thing ever. But we were moving forward, and for some reason, something must have been in my heart that I needed to do more due diligence. I looked up the auditor's website, found the property, and everyone told me that the school district was going to be Springfield, which is where I wanted to be at. But this auditor's website said Toledo Public. I said, well, so I called the auditor's website, called both school districts, and they all confirmed Toledo Public, not where I wanted to be at. Called Ryan, said, we're not buying this house. So he's like, no, we're buying this house. But like we said, we talked it out. We kept moving forward with it. We got to the closing day, and we actually got to the parking lot. I think he felt that I was still uneasy with the situation, but this is where alignment comes into play, because we sat in that parking lot and talked. We had a 4 o'clock appointment. Realtor comes out, it's 4:20 at this point. He said, are you guys gonna close on this house? I said, I don't know, you're going to have to wait. So you're going to have to wait. And so we talked, I cried. He sat there and went over the pros and cons. Long story short is that we did go forward with it because of the fact that you can always get another house. We can always get another single family house for ourselves, but we were doing this as an investment for our family. And we actually, 8 years later, still live there today. We're running money. You want to go on that, or you want to?
So even though we had bought the twinplex, we have a couple rentals now, and money still runs out. So we're trying to figure out what to do next. At that time, we had joined our local RIA, and one of the times that we were there, older gentleman that was at the end of his season came up, and he was selling properties, and he was doing a lease option. So after he got done, we spoke to him and said, we called him afterwards and said, we're interested in our property. He said, I'm sorry, that one is gone, but we have another one. So he took us to that property, and we ended up buying our first lease option deal with $10,000 down. That deal worked out great, and because of the relationships that we had with that individual, we were able to close
7 more properties.
Several more properties with that individual, but we switched it though. We didn't like the lease option. We wanted to do owner financing, and we wanted to pay less money. So what we did was offer $1,000 down on the properties, and then we gave a payment that worked for him and worked for us. One of those, is that on the slide?
The next slide. Yeah.
So one of those properties, I think Zuber and I did the three of us did a podcast on that. It was a house that we paid $1,000 down, $350 a month, and that house we still have, and it's been 5 years, and our rent on that property.
We rent that for $1,350.
So.
Oh, that's actually the home that we live in right now. So this is the house that almost didn't happen, but you can't see them, but our 2 children are out there playing, but we live in the side, and it's actually a good size. I mean, it has 2 garages, each side has a garage. Both have finished basements. Our side is a little bit bigger. We have 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and our tenant has 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. So it's actually a nice size townhouse style twinplex. So but our kids are getting bigger, but we're still there.
So right now, what we're doing with our portfolio is, in the beginning, you buy what you have to buy. So we bought a lot of C minus properties. Today, we are buying B plus A properties. We are doing 1031 exchanges into those properties. We are still saving a couple because we still want to do some different things. So we have a couple of those properties that are really low that we're going to be saving and probably 1031 exchange into maybe storage units or something else. So that's where we're at right now. We have 20 doors, 14 years. At this point, we are at 100% alignment. We weren't before. We're going to work on that here.
So when business costs too much, so we were doing amazing. We were buying properties. We did the house hacking. We were doing creative financing. But Ryan and I got to a point where it was all business and no marriage. You can go to the next slide, please. So our communication definitely started to shrink. From my perspective, our business was growing. Like I said, we were getting properties left and right. Properties were being brought to us left and right, but our connection was shrinking. Every time we would pretty much communicate, it was about business. And that was not a way to have a marriage. It was, okay, what house is that we're working on now? What construction project are we working on now? Who paid rent? Who didn't pay rent? That was our conversations, and that was every day, day in and day out. As Ryan mentioned before, he does all the work on the property. So Ryan was busy, which didn't mean that and we were both working 9 to 5s. So he would do the properties either after work or on the weekend. So when we did see each other, it was very rare. So everything was like, the conversation was basically transactions. I felt unheard, and there was just this disconnect that was just straining our marriage.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself here. Me as a man, I'm a provider. So all I was thinking of is buying more houses, buying more houses, buying more houses. I didn't, in my head, it made sense. If we had more debt, then we'll buy more houses to solve that problem. And that wasn't the case. I mean, it even came to the point where I started buying houses, even though it was, let's say, $1,000 down. I didn't talk about my wife. I didn't talk to my wife about it. I literally said, "Hey, you're gonna love this deal. It's $1,000 down. I think that one was $500 a month. It's turnkey, which we all know that's never turnkey, and you're gonna love this deal." So we closed on the deal without her seeing it. So got
and I
together.
get to the house, and I hated it, you guys. I absolutely hated the house.
Well, you know how we always talk about, you buy a property and then it doesn't break until you buy it, right? So literally, after we bought this property, we started showing it to a resident that we had that wanted to move to a different neighborhood. Showed them to him one day. The next day I go back, the whole downstairs was flooded. No one's there. I didn't understand what happened. So somehow the toilet upstairs in the second bathroom leaked, and we weren't there. So it leaked and leaked, destroyed upstairs floor, downstairs floor. So now look where we're at, remodeling another property.
Another property renovation.
That was supposed to be turnkey property. On top of us not being in alignment.
Not moving. Oh, too much. Okay, so we knew that we had to draw the line in the sand, for lack of a better phrase, and that we had to figure this out. Otherwise, we were not going to make it. So not sure what day or what moment that happened, but we knew that things had to change. So we started having conversations that were not business related. And so we came up with some things that we do now that are pretty much our non-negotiables. And I'm going to just read those out here. So, excuse me. One, and these are no in particular order. One, schedule communication. Business meetings are not marriage conversations. Protect both with intentional separation. 2, protected family time. We have hard stops. Non-negotiable boundaries that honor what matters most. I'm no longer talking business in bed, not doing it. Define roles, clear lanes creates peace. Know who owns what to reduce friction and confusion. 4, permission before expansion, going back to that property we're talking about. Unity over opportunity. Every growth decision requires alignment, not just excitement for the deal. And then faith is our anchor. This is actually our most important because it basically probably saved our marriage. Prayer before pressure. Let faith guide decisions, not just your financial projections. So some of the things that we have learned, we learned that being in business together doesn't mean being in business mode at all times. The best investment we made wasn't a property. It was protecting our marriage while building our portfolio. Some of these are, I'm going to reiterate, but, they're important to say. What changed after the interruption? Before we had constant hustle, blurred boundaries, communication gaps, stress affecting our connection. And then after, we have structured communication, protected time, aligned decisions, and peace with progress. We have honest conversations now, acknowledgement of impact and commitment to change together.
Yeah, this is extremely important. I mean, without this, like I said, we wouldn't be here now. So here we are now, 20 doors, 14 years, still working together. It's truly a blessing to be here with my wife. We work together in integrity. We kill it. We kill it together. We wouldn't be able to do it any other way. And I'm happy that we actually went through all those problems. All those problems that we went through was actually a blessing because it got us to where we are today. So.
Get it? Okay. All right. You one more. Back. Looking too fast. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, lessons we share with you. Protect what matters. No amount of doors is worth losing connection. Guard your relationship like you guard your assets. I absolutely love that. Communicate constantly. Assumptions kill alignment. Create space for real conversations, not just business updates. And balance ambition. Growth is good, but not at any cost. Know when to pause, pivot, or protect your peace. And lead with faith. Let faith guide your decisions. Prayer before pressure keeps you grounded in purpose. So you don't have to choose. You can build wealth, protect your marriage, and still walk in purpose, but only if you're intentional. Real estate can be rebuilt. Portfolios can be restructured, but if you lose your marriage in the process, the cost is too high. So we thank you, and that is our story, and that is our family. Today, our 2 daughters. Yeah.
All right, we got a question. Chester, go for it.
Big Chester.
Appreciate you guys sharing your story, especially with the vulnerability. Very powerful, very, very poignant. One of the questions that I had, especially as you were discussing about how the, let's say, compartmentalization or separation of business and your marriage, I wanted to kind of touch a little bit further, kind of after you guys have already had that, aha moment of hey, we can't do both. Do you guys regularly have calibration or alignment in terms of hey, here's where we're at, in terms of let's say, I don't know what the example is but say for, a few days of, focusing on business or a few hours per day and then kind of updating it, like in terms of like a regular schedule of like, hey, is this working? Is this not working for us? Like things like that.
We have a regular schedule. As far as like Saturday mornings is typically our time where we'll sit down and kind of go over our week. So that's kind of our business time to go over and see what we got going on with our children. Our children are very active with sports, what we have going on with the businesses, and kind of map out that week for everybody throughout the week. So we kind of, if we need more check-ins throughout the week, they're kind of unscheduled, but that is usually our time during the week where we sit down and go over everything.
Yeah, and we're also really big on vision, and then also our core purposes. And so that kind of, if it doesn't align with that, we don't do it. That's family, business. If it doesn't align with our core values, we don't do it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hello. Love this topic. My first question is, I'm just kind of curious. In your relationship, in most relationships, you have like the one that's kind of like the more kind of like hyper fixated. So like in my relationship, it's me. So it's kind of like difficult for me to remember like, hey, I'm doing too much, I'm too focused or whatever. So I'm curious, like in your relationship, who is that? Who tends to be more the one that like has to be pulled to like, hey, come back to the relationship or what, or you're focusing too much on whatever the task is at that point? And like how, maybe some tips on how, to, like either from the point of view of the person that has to be the one that like, hey, bring the other spouse back to the relationship, or from being that person, like for me, is like what tips would be for like me to like learn to not be so hyper-focused, because I've been noticing that, so I love this one and the one from yesterday of like, hey, making sure you're like also taking care of your relationship.
Well, I would say, and he may disagree, but I think Ryan is the one that's always, we gotta do this, and this, and I'm the one that's saying, let's bring it back, you know? Would you agree?
I would agree. Absolutely.
But you know, there's times when I just usually just say, literally, stop. Like I will let him know, because as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner, and I still work a 9 to 5, there's times when I am extremely overwhelmed. And Ryan will, not that he doesn't recognize it, but he'll come in and say, we gotta do this, and I'm like, stop. And so it's literally sometimes just that. Yeah. That's I let him know that I had a hard time before communicating that to him, that I would want to do it all. Like I wanted to be the wife, the mother, everything that I know that I wanted to be, I couldn't be all the time. Mm-hmm. And sorry, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I had to learn to use my voice and say, this is how I'm feeling, and today is not that day, I can't do it today. Yeah. And just really communicate. I mean, communication is so key, and that's what we were missing before. We were missing the communication and being able to just say, hey, not today, or not this hour, give me 30 minutes, or whatever it is that you need.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that answer? I hope that answers.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if he had like said any like for yourself. Like one thing that I learned to do is like set timers. Like with like YouTube, you could do like this Pomodoro thing where it has like timers, so it has something that tells me like, all right, go take a break, or try to set limits. I'm wondering if like you did anything like that.
Go ahead.
No, we didn't do anything like that. But honestly, for me, and most men, you know when your woman doesn't want to deal with you. She gives you, I mean, just let's be honest, she gives you that look. And then it happened the other night, we were sitting down in a cafeteria, at the hotel. She gave me that look, and I told the people I was with, it's time for me to go. So, just don't ignore that. Do not ignore that. And then really ask questions. I know it's kind of crazy, but if she asks you something, tell her what you thought she said. And if it's not correct, then we gotta do it again until we understand each other completely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question is, as someone who, as a kid, was, traumatized when my parents got divorced, and especially in the community we lived in and so forth, I've always told myself that's never going to happen, if for no other reason, to do that to my own kids. And so my question is actually to Ryan there, is in the relationship, I'm the very energetic, always going, and I think it's kind of like that internal drive to make sure that my kids don't live as poor, or anyways, don't live as the way I did when I was younger, before getting lucky enough to leave home and play hockey. And so my question to you is, how do you know when, for me, I know like the stress that I can put on a relationship is frankly my energy, the energy and the desire and just being tunnel focused on doing that, on doing that particular task, right? And, whether it's real estate or career, whatever. How do you know when to kind of like, I don't know, like what do you put internally to kind of stop, for this to, because like it's not, we're always people that, at least me, I'm always one who's always wanting to go and always has the energy. I don't know when to stop. And I'm afraid if I stop, I'm going to screw everything up. So like, it's hard for like, how do you know internally, like when to like, oh, stop, because obviously the marriage is the most important thing, but but also is your energy that allows you to get ahead anyways. So
I can relate to you. So my parents did not have a good relationship either. I seen them fight. And then actually I told myself I would never get married. So this is my third marriage. So this is my last marriage because she's my rock. She keeps me grounded. So to try to answer your question is for me, it was time. Time in relationships, time to really know me and to understand me, and then in putting a lot of stuff on myself as well. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but it's more I kind of knows when we have our own faults, and then we kind of knows when we're pushing, and I just know when to stop now. Over time, it just maybe God's just working with me now, and it just comes naturally now.
thank you.
So we have 3 properties, and I only have one question. But we have 2 empties actually, and so we're doing kind of remodeling and improving the properties. And so we're doing that. I'm working part-time as a nurse in the hospital, 12-hour shifts, and we don't have any kids, but I'm also wanting to like kind of spring clean my house, and there's just a lot of projects. We like to travel, we like to do all this stuff, but it's a big pull on me personally to be able to work on the rentals and handle that other stuff. So I'm just wondering, how do you guys do, I guess it's a work-life balance thing, but we are not contracting out a lot of our work, and we need help. Who wants to help us? No. But I don't know how to do that. Like, it's things like, we need to hang the curtains, and I need to fix the ironing board that's built in a 1940s house, and I don't know how you guys do that with 20. We only have 3 and only 2 empties. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I would say now everything's scheduled. There's times there's like, we have a calendar that's a family calendar. I don't know if you guys seen those advertisements on like TikTok with was it Kozla? I don't know what they're actually called, but they're digital cameras. That's, not cameras, but the digital calendars that you can, if you look them up, they are basically, it's on our wall. And it's a family calendar, and we use it for everything. It's sports. It's girls clean this bathroom at this time. It's so detailed because we have to, because otherwise things are getting missed. Doctor's appointments, everything is on that calendar. Because if we don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. Even we should, we haven't done this yet, but we should, even schedule our date nights and things like that. We haven't got to that extreme, but we just started that calendar at the end of last year, and it's worked really well for us. You got anything?
If you can give up anything, if there's something someone else can do, even if it's a small thing, and I understand you don't contract stuff out, but if you can find somebody that's to help you with the blinds, help you with the curtains, a family member, friends, anything to take some of that burden off you, I would try that. I mean, before we left here, we had a tenant moving into one of our properties, and we did not have the time to have a cleaner. So called my father-in-law. They came over, brought some friends, and we just knocked it out. So.
Ryan and Keisha, folks. Raise it up, crowd. Nailed it. Thank you for everything. They get a lot of credit for today, kind of unknowingly, that spark that picture did. Some stranger on the internet taking a picture of his wife on a park bench resonated enough with me to say that, there's something here. So that, you two will always be in my heart. I'll always remember that. It was so nice of you to send Ryan. All right, next up is the tools panel. Hopefully folks know who this is going to be. This is going to be Lance. This is going to be Dana. It's going to be Bo. It's going to be Burton. It's going to be Mike. I think those are the 5. Let's go. So again, folks, one of the things you know on my channel is we bring on not only millionaires, but also tools and lenders that come back every week. You get to know them. These folks are rock stars. They frankly help me produce content, right? You produce 3 videos a day, 7 days a week. You need excellent contributors. And this is time to give these guys some sun. You can line up for questions if you want. We only have about a half hour for this session. But again, you'll be able to ask questions. They will be here for several hours. But let's give them a couple of minutes to introduce who they are, what they do, and we'll just start with Lance. Go for it.
Thank you, Zuber. My name's Lance Lambert. I run a company called Resi Club. It's a niche media and research company that focuses on the U.S. housing market, so covering what's going on in home building, single-family rentals, build-to-rent, mortgage, and then a lot of local housing market data.
My name's Mike Lapsley. I run a company called, well, wait a second, let me do this differently. Let me ask you a question. Who has heard of Rentometer? How many people have heard of Rent-O-Meter? It's the same company. It's the number one question I get asked. Is it Rentometer or Rent-O-Meter? The original name was Rentometer, but we don't mind Rent-O-Meter. But we collect, we spend half our time collecting rental data all over the country, every type of property, every part of the country. So we have national coverage. And we spend the other half of our time building systems to try and get it delivered to you in a way that it's effective for you. The reason it's important is you're making decisions. You're making rental decisions, you're making investment decisions, and the math is the easy part if you have the right data and the right technology. The math should only be about 2 minutes of the conversation. The hard part is the subjective part, which is what you do every single day. You deal with, is this property the right property? Which way are the rents going? Is there a new factory opening? Is there a new plant opening? You deal with all the subjective factors that really drive success. So what we try and do is turn that information and data and technology piece into a 2-minute or instantaneous decision for you. So you have that data, you can move with certainty. So I'll pass it along.
I just have to give a huge plug to Mike and Rentometer or Rent-O-Meter. You guys can say that as long as you're one of their customers. One, you can go on their website and get a free estimate of your property. But 2, I'm in the sexy industry of property management. And when we were looking at who has the best data for rentals, we took like a list of, I think, 25 properties that we had where it was really accurate over time, and we knew what we had listed it for versus what we rented it for. And we plugged it into like the Zillows, the Redfins, every single data source that we could get, including AI. And Rentometer was hands down the most accurate, so that's why they're one of our partners, but also largest partner for data. We take data from a ton of different sources, but definitely weight yours more heavily.
Thank you.
So just a little bit, if you're not, I know all of you guys have W-2s, other jobs, you're thinking about everything else and having rentals as a way to get financial freedom as you grow that portfolio. But every day, everyone up here is thinking about how do we make your experience better. So if you have any questions about data and tools and stuff like that, we love talking about it. My name's Dana Dunford. For those who don't know me, we're in property management, and we provide a platform that offers both software and services to manage your properties. About 10 years ago, we saw a huge need in the market. You could manage your property yourself or hire a property manager. 72% of rental properties in the United States are self-managed. So 72% of people are not using a property manager. And so we said, okay, great, that means everyone must love managing their properties. But I think a lot of people were like me. I didn't like managing my property. I didn't like getting a call on Saturday morning and suddenly saying, oh gosh, now I have to get a plumber out. So we automate as much of the process as we can, but then we also have services, everything from self-guided tours or connecting you to a local agent/manager to show your property, to 24/7 repair coordination, or if you're in the unfortunate situation where your tenant's not paying rent or something, mediators and process servers and all of that to streamline your process. We're in all 50 states. We manage the day-to-day of about 33,000 rentals, so that makes us the largest operator for retail investors, but we also have a couple 100,000 using our software and your guys' data. So if you have any questions about property management, we've probably seen it all. Property management, as you guys know, can be a thankless task. So appreciate all you guys to being out there, investing in rentals, giving people homes, and love to hear any of your questions on property management.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Bo Eckstein here. Hope you watch me on Michael's channel. I am a human tool. I guess I'm on the. I'm a Swiss Army knife. I've done a lot. 28 years in real estate. I started in lending, residential lending, and did a lot of hard money, fix and flip. California real estate broker, Nevada salesperson, NMLO license. But the last 10 years, I've focused on business ownership, so SBA financing. And I have a franchise consulting company. And I own some other businesses as a minority owner in them. But basically, what my companies and I do are help people get into business ownership. And, a long time ago, I started thinking, instead of flipping houses, I need to own long-term rentals. So I started investing out of state. In South Bend, Indiana, and it was great. It worked out really well. I just realized that the cash flow was a lot slower than I thought. And that's really what changed my mind into business ownership. But SBA financing, if for you guys that don't know, is the most powerful tool out there if you use correctly. So, for example, you can buy a self-storage facility, get 90% financing. Seller can carry back 5%. So really what I help people do is transition, either taking a small step or a big step into owning a business. For example, closed a deal this year, or 2025, and this is just kind of one that made my head spin. And this is kind of like a grand slam. This guy in one of my mastermind groups comes to me, or got referred to me, and he said, look, I've got this business under contract for $10 million. And the guy's 29 years old. I mean, he was pretty successful to begin with, but he was a smart guy. So anyways, he had gone direct to a bank, and he couldn't get the deal done. Well, it was like $1 million less in proceeds. So anyways, I was able to arrange the financing for him. But when I looked at the outcome of what he had, so he, with one move, $300,000 out of pocket, He has a $4 million cash flow stream. He bought a business doing $50 million of top line revenue. So if you understand how to creatively structure with SBA financing, it's a game changer. And then we also help people do gateway businesses like vending or many other businesses. I've been talking to some people in here that we've, some guys operate some franchises. Right now, myself and partners are investing and we're buying a grout restoration franchise. These boring businesses that can be started. You can finance 90% of them with SBA financing, even on startup businesses. So if you're looking to go faster than one rental at a time, which is a great, you're gonna do that, and it's a great business model, 2.5 hour radius. I think having a plan B, as Michael and I always talk about, or perhaps you hate your job, or perhaps your job's gonna be taken by AI, just come talk to me, or you can go to onerentalmeeting.com. Thank you.
That was amazing. First off, I'd like to start by saying thank you for being here. Just hearing the stories on stage and just hearing the conversation in the crowd, we're all going through our own story, right? Like everybody here has their own struggle, and the fact that you took the time out of your day to be here says a lot about your character. Also want to thank you because it's you guys that are out there on the front lines dealing with homeowners and buyers. So round of applause to you guys for being here. Thank you. My name is Burton, and I work for a company called PropStream. We've been in business since 2006. We sold the company to Stewart Title in 2021. I've been with the company since 2013, and just like most of you guys, I had no reason to be in real estate. Craigslist is the reason why I got into PropStream. I lost my job. I needed a job. Craigslist was there, thank the Lord. I got hired at PropStream, and I didn't know anything about real estate. Over the last 13 years, I've worked hand in hand with real estate professionals like you guys to help you understand the complexity of data. What PropStream does really well is we provide property information. So if you want the property details, the tax info, how many mortgages, who their lenders are, how many assets that owner has, maybe you want to run comps using public records or MLS records. We do data on a nationwide level. Now, where I come into play is I'm here to help you understand the complexity of data. So while you can also search a property and analyze it in PropStream, what I love the most is our lead generation. I like to teach people that data is not so black and white. I know you guys are probably thinking, what list do you have? I like to challenge you to think of the filters. There are leads out there that are going to be on a list. You're probably thinking pre-foreclosures, vacant properties. What about those homeowners with 10% interest rates from 2010 sitting out there? What about that owner who's been living in their house for 10 years sharing one bathroom with their children? These are leads that you guys are missing out on that could be great potential for not just your business, but by also helping that homeowner. So again, my name is Burton. I specialize in helping you understand the complexity of real estate data. I'm also the host of PropStream Pros, which is a podcast where we do not talk about X's and O's. We talk about how the struggles in your life and how you've managed to deal with them, and the fact that you're here breathing today is what's your superpower in finding these unique niche off-market properties. So that's what we do, and if you have any questions on our data or how to manipulate our data to find off-market deals, just let me know. Again, my name is Burton, but thank you guys. You guys should be the ones on stage, and we should be there, but I don't think this stage has enough room for all of us. But thank you guys so much.
All right, a couple of quick questions from the Zoom. Thanks, guys, for tuning in Zoom. This one's going to be for Lance first, and I'll give you this mic. What is the skill you recommend for a young data analyst?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be, I think one area that a lot of data analysts struggle in is being able to communicate their findings. And so I think being able to distill things into really simple ways that people understand. So I think that if you're going to be a data analyst, I think you got to work on the visual side. You got to be able to tell the story with visuals. You got to be able to understand how to condense that information really quickly. And then the other thing is the biggest area of opportunity is how can you get yourself at the frontier of what's going on with AI. So spending time there, investing into it. I think that is what I would do.
Yeah. I just want to say something on top of that answer for Lance, because if you ever watch us talk, he's like data, housing, right? And I'm the guy trying to push him to make a call. If you're going to be a data analyst, you got to be true to the data. You don't let a guy like me push you, and he never lets me push him. But I'm trying. I'm trying all the time. So someday maybe I will, but keep doing you. All right, questions from the room. Let's go.
Hi, again. So, as far as rent goes, we live in California, and so we totally agree with the other speaker, I don't remember what his name was, that you have to increase your rent by a certain percentage that's allowed, because if you let it slack 1 year, you fall behind. You let it slack 2 years, you fall behind. And it's just a snowball, and you can never catch up to what market value is until they move out. So, and we have long-term renters. The suggestion was made that we could come up with a market analysis, kind of, with a clipboard and some documents, and show it to the tenant before we raise the rent and say, these are the market rates in this area for what you have going here. We have a basement, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, you know, you're next to a park, all that stuff, 7 blocks from the beach. So in comparison, these are the current rates that we could charge. What do you think is reasonable? Do you think that's a good plan? I'm all for, let's just jack it up to the full percent. But my other half believes that that might be an idea to try. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it. I talked to Dion yesterday. Yeah, Dion's binder strategy, it's phenomenal. It's leveraging information, not just to accomplish what you need to, but doing it in a way with a lot less friction between you and your customer, right? The tenant is your customer. And so if you're using information to keep that conversation, it's a tough conversation. How much is the rent? Property managers have it with their owners and their clients. I have lots of property managers who say, I need to talk to my owner. Most rents in most parts of the country are going down, and they expect a certain number. Your report saves me from having to take the brunt of them getting less rent. It's the other side of it. So yes, I think it's a great strategy. I think it's a great tool to remove the emotional part of the conversation as much as you can. And so, yeah, I'm all for it.
Thank you. I hadn't thought of that angle. Plus, just as a caveat, 2 of the people that we raised it up to the percent, which I thought was a good plan, they moved out.
I'm sorry, could you say that?
2 of the tenants that we had raised the rent by the percentage method, which I'm a fan of, they moved right out. I think because they didn't have the connection like
Yeah, that's the binder strategy's hook, is when you do it together, they feel a part of the process, where I, in the past, like you, would just raise it up to the maximum because I don't want to be hurt. Guess what? They bounce, and I have a $2,000 remodel, so I lost. So that's, if you just jam it through without them, you get that outcome a lot, unfortunately.
Dion mentioned, when I was talking to him yesterday, he mentioned that. He said, I asked them, so they're looking at a rent that should be $2,000. They might be paying $1,500 or $1,600. And so I will ask them, how much do you want to pay? Now they're thinking $2,000, so they've anchored that in. They'll propose $1,800, and Dion will say, how about we go with $1,750? So he's building goodwill into the process, right? So if you can anchor the higher number and then give a little bit, again, just really the emotional aspect of it and the feeling that the person on the other side leaves with is really important.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add to that too? I think you hit on a really important topic when we're dealing with homeowners, is just you never want to get into a debate, and I think education's really key. So in that scenario, some of the properties I deal with, my rentals, I run rental comps, and I just bring it on the table. The rental comps I have pictures of the properties, both interior and exterior. And then again, it's just a game plan. How do we get on the same page? Because yeah, rent is going to increase regardless, right? But how can we compromise that? And rather than getting into a price war, or I believe it should be 1% more than what you're currently paying, I just put the comps on the table, the rental comps on the table, show them what we're wanting to do. If we're going to do any small remodels, this is what that remodel might take that rent to. Or if we keep it the same, here are rental properties that are similar and what they're currently renting out for in today's market. And so whether it's an after repair value or a listing price that you're trying to recommend, or in this case, a rental price, Education is key. And so one of the things we encourage our users to do is constantly print out comp reports. That way you can show the user, or not the user, the homeowner, the high, the medium, and even the low rental values based on the condition and market. So one important thing is educate. The moment you start getting into a rebuttal with homeowners, you've lost that connection. So stay away from, I think this should be the price, and more of just, here's what I'm seeing in the market. And again, get them involved.
Thank you guys for making time to connect with us today. This one's more for Bo on the SBA side. You've got a group that's using long-term fixed rate debt, comfortable with real estate concepts. But when looking at an operational business, we have two parts: the enterprise value of the operations on top of the real estate. How does that financing work? Do I end up with two loans?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. There's the SBA 7A loan and the SBA 504 loan. The 504 is always real estate. The 7A is like the Swiss Army. So you can do real estate and business acquisition. I could do a acquisition of a business with no real estate collateral, period, with a SBA 7A loan. So when we look at a deal, we just figure out like, okay, what are you buying the business for? Let's say 300 grand, and I'm buying the real estate for $1 million. As long as the value in the purchase and sale agreement of the real estate is 51% or more of the total transaction, I could amortize the loan over 25 years versus a 10-year straight business. If I do a business transaction with no real estate, it's a 10-year term. So there's a million ways to structure it. Sometimes it makes sense to do it as an SBA 7A versus a 504. But once you understand how to use it, it's like the most powerful tool, because you could, SBA 7A on a business acquisition, just let's call it $1 million self-storage facility. I get a $900,000 loan. I have to come in with 100 grand. Seller decide, he's the seller. He's going to carry back 5% on standby, no payments due for the term of the loan. It can accrue interest. Now I have to come in with 50 grand. Zuber's got a lot of money. Zuber, I'll give you 15% ownership. It can't be borrowed funds. Then I just bought this self-storage for 100%. We do it all the time. So that's what's more exciting about it. 40 to 60% of business acquisitions have seller financing. So it's like, it's prime for real estate investors. I like real estate. Like, I'm a part owner of a marina with real estate. I own 19%. I didn't have to guarantee the loan, right? And so like, I like doing that. I'll have non-guarantee. Now you do have to sign a personal guarantee, and there's a lot of caveats to SBA 7A, but it's a great tool to supercharge your portfolio, whether it's self-storage, whether it's owning some sort of brick and mortar business. As long as your business occupies 51% of the space, it's eligible for SBA. So it's like a great tool. RV parks, all these things. There's caveats to all of it, but once you understand it and do your first acquisition, you're like, oh, I should have been doing this all the time, because you can move faster with one acquisition.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if I may, any educational resources you like? I read Cody Sanchez's Main Street Millionaire book. Any things like that?
Just go to my YouTube channel. I have 2,500 videos, not as many as Zuber, but it's pretty good. Or go to Amazon. I just wrote a book called How to Get SBA Financing to Buy Your First Business. You guys can buy it. Actually, if you guys would have, I was giving it away for free. Maybe I'll do it one more time for Zuber, but you get the Kindle version. But that's really, it's simple. It seems confusing. Like, I self-taught myself how to originate these loans like 9 or 10 years ago. But
thank you.
Yeah, so my question, and thank you all for being here, is primarily around property management, so Dana, probably up your alley. But my question really is, you mentioned 72% of people are kind of self-managing. You probably talk to a lot of folks that have small portfolios. Really, how do you know that they've graduated and are probably a good candidate to start outsourcing to a platform or a property manager, as kind of my first half of the question? And then what are the features really that drive the highest return, I guess, on the Hemlane platform for people that are using it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have very few slumlords. I also hate the word landlord. That's why I always use rental owner or real estate investor, because landlord, the second you hear it, you automatically think slumlord. They will self-opt out of a platform like us because they don't want documentation. They do not want, when a tenant puts in a repair request, for anyone to respond. And so I think those people, one, have huge risk and liability because they get slapped with some lawsuit because they have no heat in their rental property. They never actually end up making any cash flow. And so for us, we deal with a lot of low income, we deal with Section 8, we deal with unbanked tenants. But what makes an owner or property manager succeed is that they are always fair. They're always fair to the tenant. If something's discretionary, we're gonna say the same thing as them. This is discretionary. We might do it during, an annual renewal or during the next turnover. We can figure that out based on what the instructions are in the system. But I think slumlords actually don't wanna work with us because they know for us, we're going to be professional through the situation, and we're that in between to make sure tenants stay for longer, that they love using Hemlane, and then for the owner, that they're actually able to increase their cash flow, have stability with their portfolio, and then just not a lot of work. And then your next question, I think, was what features people like. I know we won't have too much time to talk about it here. Self-guided tours is our fastest growing. I was the most skeptical on self-guided tours. I was like, there's no way we're gonna do this. We're gonna have squatters. And it's interesting because we're in some super low income markets with self-guided tours, and it's changed the game. And so that's our fastest growing. The other one is Eviction Shield. I think there's a lot of rent guarantee programs out there. I actually think a lot of them are a scam, and I can tell you why later. But Eviction Shield is the other one that kind of gives you a peace of mind where you can go to sleep at night knowing if your tenant is late on rent, we have a mediator reaching out to them, figuring out why, do we need to do a payment plan, is this gonna be going to court? And it takes a lot of that emotion and stress off of you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hello. First of all, thank you guys for being here. I'm a big fan of the tools that you guys have, so I've been using it in my business. So my question is about, I'm actually in the tech industry as in my W-2, and you guys mentioned it, AI. I want to understand how is AI changing the behavior of real estate investors? I guess for land, are you seeing any specific trends right now in terms of, transactions or just behaviors that you're seeing? And then for the rest, I know some of the tools, PropStream, they have AI features. Are you seeing any changes in the usage of the tool? So those are some of the question about AI.
Yeah, so I have my own opinions on AI, but I have seen AI heavily come into the industry, especially on the tech side of things, the software side of things. My 2 cents on that is it has expedited some of the things like calendars, notifications, follow-up. What we're also seeing it, and we've applied it in our platform as well, is the marketing aspect of it. We just introduced this last year a click-to-dial feature through our PropStream Intelligence. So you can build a list, gather phone numbers, and then call directly from our platform. And our PropStream Intelligence will kind of guide you through that conversation. So I think, again, AI, it's a double-edged sword. I think for those that are just kind of, they need that confidence, they need that guidance, it's perfect for them. I'm also seeing it being applied in our data set as well. For example, who uses the MLS to look for properties, right? A majority of us do. So we took our AI to look through all of our MLS data that we gather nationwide, specifically on the photos. Because what we started realizing was people were actually going on Zillow and Redfin and looking at photos to see if it was an asset for them, a potential lead. So we instructed our AI to go through every single MLS photo, active, sold, failed, whatever it was that we gather, and give it a grading system. So tell us, what's luxurious, what's poor, what's in disrepair, and then we handed that back to the user base. So we're using AI to, again, cut time, if you will, right? So rather than you going on Zillow and looking at 10 listings and 20 photos a piece, that's 200 photos. PropStream, I'm in this market, I need everything that's in disrepair or below. Boom, here's your properties. And then you could add equity, you could add, what type of mortgage that person has if you want to assume it because you're going to do a subject to or whatever. So for me, AI is definitely helping our users, our investors, the real estate professional across the board. But this is where my opinion comes in, and this is my opinion. It does not represent PropStream. we work in an emotional industry. And so what I've personally seen is a lot of people start using AI dialers to reach out to homeowners. Well, yes, you might. I mean, it's a numbers game. You're eventually going to get someone who's going to want to sell. I think the true power that we all need to understand is the power that we have within each other, and that's the ability to connect and have empathy, right? So again, double-edged sword. It's been very useful for our data set, features like our click-to-dial and batch dialer, which we acquired last year. But be wary on it. I wouldn't entirely replace your entire business with AI. Just especially when it comes to the emotional factor, I truly don't think AI is going to ever take over that part.
And so when it comes to AI, I think the investors, probably some different tools and things like that, but I think the biggest thing with AI is the uncertainty it brings to the labor side. And so with house prices, the number one correlation with house prices is incomes. Now, you'll have some disruptions where the cyclicality of the housing cycle kind of disrupts it a bit, but long term, they move with incomes. And so if you go back to the last biggest disruption with labor in the US, it was globalization, right? And so you look at 1975. Since 1975, US house prices have increased 800%, according to the Freddie Mac House Price Index for single family. In Youngstown, Ohio, house prices have went up 400%. In San Francisco's metro area, they've went up 2,200%. And so the impact that it had on the labor market and income from that globalization effect was very uneven. And I think that there's a possibility with what could come from AI, maybe even if it's not, that very like doomsday scenario for labor, but even just the impacts that it have will likely be uneven. And so I think there could be different segments of the housing market that feel that differently. And I think that if you can make good bets there, I think that there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, I would just like to add, AI requires quality data. It's the old garbage in, garbage out. So we're testing a lot of things, and we're being very careful because we don't want to produce lousy results for people. We look at it from the standpoint of what problem can we solve for our customers, and we also look at it from the standpoint of most of the things that you could get from AI using our data sets, you could get it by looking up this, looking up this, looking up this, right? But if we put it all together, you can just ask it a question. You could say, give me the 3 neighborhoods in San Francisco that have rent increases above 5% consistently in the last 3 years. And, oh, by the way, give me a list of properties that are for sale that have at least a 1%, meet the 1% rule. Now, you could get that today with the different systems we offer, but it's going to take you 20, 30 minutes. We want to get that to the point where you just ask that question, answer comes back.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, folks, for coming. I am a big fan of Rentometer or Rentometer. I might try bail you up later, and I've got a question about some of the data sets. But my question to everybody, I'm very heavy in co-living. How do you see co-living appearing in your data sets or in your business model at the moment? And it's a question for all of you.
I'll just take it quickly. For us, it's not a factor. I mean, we update tens of millions of records a year, and that's a small piece. We may pick it up, but it usually gets filtered out because it's priced differently, and we do look for outliers. So at this point, it's a very small percentage. You can use our system and apply a factor to the rents to come up with a co-living number if you need it, and we're talking about how to refine that even further. But in terms of the overall data set, it's not a factor.
I was just going to quickly say it's only as good as the data you have, right? And so from our end, we know what is co-living versus what is not in our system. And so it's much easier. We use AI for it all. We have a tool called Jarvis on the back end that we can say only look at the properties that are co-living and then give us predictions. And so I think it'll be important to have that data and those sources going in to whatever you're analyzing.
Yeah, in terms of co-living values, that's not necessarily what we specialize here at PropStream, but we can specialize in giving you properties that meet the co-living criteria. We just introduced demographics. Our demographics is, we have over 150 million records in our platform, but the way we design our demographics is for every single parcel, and then you, the user, can either decrease the mile radius to a quarter mile, or even go up to 10 miles if you want. But one of the features in our demographics is breaking down the owners versus renters in that market, school districts, and household composition on averages. With that information, you should be able to determine whether an asset you're looking at, just by simply typing in the address, is suitable for co-living or not.
Excellent, thank you.
Guys will be here the rest of the day, or at least most of the day, asking questions, pull them aside, celebrate them. The guys that are back for multiple years, you have gifts. First timers get a belt.
Hey, yo. Hey.
Open it or whatever. Just like Christmas morning for me. I paid for them, but I have no idea what's inside. I know they're shoes, that's all I know. Because you don't know how to do the side handles. You have 4. Ah, look at you! Yay! Emerge, yes. Of course. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Celebrate. Yay! Thanks for flying out. Thanks for coming. Alex, I screwed up yesterday. Where's Alex? She bought dinner and I screwed up. My fault. You have one of these too. Yay, steadily. Yay! Sorry about that. All right, get some pictures. Sorry, now you have extra luggage to take back. By the way, I'm not taking that back. That's yours. I think he's taking pictures. You're taking pictures, or you got them already? You're good? There you go. Yeah, get up there. Oh, get that. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you for playing along. All right. We're going to keep the party going. We're going to bring up our lenders who come back each and every week. Mr. Stephen Dow starts the party. He reached out to me 5 years ago and said, hey, let's talk real estate. Then the boys at Convoy, and of course, Matt, the mortgage guy, all folks you see each and every week. Dustin and Jonathan are here today. So let's bring up our lenders. Let's go. Stephen, you got to do the whole, it's like an inside joke.
Although I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this show is that of my own.
All right, we got time with the lenders. Please line up. I know you guys have lender questions, both DSCR, conventional, first-time home buyers. So we'll, again, line up, ask questions. We'll go down the line just in case somebody who doesn't know you are. What do you do?
Hey guys, good afternoon. Last couple days reminded me, like, what a friggin' awesome community. Give it up for the ORAT community. Round of applause for you guys. I never remember, I'm getting old and senile. That's my excuse, at least my wife doesn't buy it. But it's been like 5.5 years, Mike, since we started every Wednesday. And like, I'll call Mike if I'm gonna be out of town. Like, can we record on Thursday? Or I'm gonna be gone the first half of the week and record on Thursday, because I truly enjoy those conversations. And then when people come up to me and tell me, you know, that they listen and they follow and they get value from it, I appreciate it. And I'm glad that somebody's listening. I'm passionate about helping people, empowering people through education. So kudos to the ORAT community for being such an awesome community and learning and growing together. I'm gonna continue making videos as long as Mike has me. And I probably gotta work another decade before I retire, so you'll see more of me.
Hey everyone, my name's Dustin Rosenberg. Me and my partner Jonathan own Convoy Home Loans. We've been so lucky to be able to meet a lot of you guys and put a face to the name, because it's been a pleasure to work with a lot of you guys in here, and thankful to be here and be part of this community.
We're actually in the network of a lot of other influencers, real estate influencers and such, and more recently we've been hearing Zuber's name come up about how great he is, how genuine he is, and how smart he is. So it's really good to see everything collide. So I know that we're in good company, and I really feel like this is the real estate community that'll help you guys get to the next level. And so we're here to do our part. I'm Jonathan.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Steve Dow with Velocity Mortgage Capital. Just been very blessed to be a part of this whole journey so far for the last 5.5 years, seeing everybody kind of grow and meet all of their, I guess, real estate investment goals and such. So thank you for having us. And yeah, any questions, please feel free to ask.
Hey everyone, Stephen Kikasi. I've recently been blessed enough to run into my maximum amount of conventional loans. And so, thank you. And so one option would be to go to DSCR. So my question is what sort of deltas are you seeing between conventional and DSCR at the moment? And then do you see those compressing or do you see them expanding into the future?
I'll answer my way. These guys do a lot of DSCR. I know Convoy's kind of leaned into DSCR, and they've got a lot of great lenders they work with. They're pretty close. But what I would say is, for somebody like you, there's no need to compare conventional versus DSCR because you can't do conventional. You've reached your limit. But DSCR is a specialty product. So, working with Convoy or working with somebody like me who's done hundreds of DSCR is important. I think it ebbs and flows. Like these guys talk about it a lot. We're like, holy shit, DSCR lenders really have an appetite right now, and they might be priced lower than conventional. And then 3 weeks later, they back up, and all of a sudden, conventional stuff is like I've seen on conventional, PennyMac, the Loan Store, some of these lenders like super friggin' sharp. If you've got 30% equity in an investment property, like it's almost the same as a primary residence when it comes to pricing. So it moves. And that's why it's good to have lenders that you can reach out to and say, hey guys, what's going on? Here's my scenario. And like I've talked about this on the channel endlessly. It's never the same. So there's no blanket advice for everybody in this room based on credit score, down payment, property type, all that good stuff. And so it's really just lenders you can like and trust and call up somebody and say, I've got a 70% LTV, DSCR, 1.2 ratio. What are you seeing with your lenders on that right now? And going from there.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Matt just said, I would think that, for the 5.5 years that we've been on the channel, that it does ebb and flow. There's been times where conventional is 0.5% lower. There's been times where DSCR is 0.5% higher or 0.5% lower. So depending on the time, and ultimately the biggest difference is that Wall Street's going to buy 90% of these DSCR loans. So their appetite, their quotas they need to hit, where they're at in the year, whether their other investments are doing well and they want to, delve back into collateralized assets is normally going to set where DSCR rates are going to be in comparison to, conventional. So right now, as of today, I'd say DSCR is maybe 1/8 of a point higher, but, in 3 weeks, it might be lower, so.
Yeah, if you guys watch the channel, you guys obviously do follow the channel. You'll hear Dustin or myself kind of mention pockets where we all of a sudden have an investor or some Wall Street fund that wants to fill like a $30 million gap or a $35 million tranche of bonds. And when they do that, that's when we should be getting more calls than I think we do. I think a lot of people miss that part because that's when the people get really aggressive on pricing, and that's when we start seeing 0.5% lower because what we see is because we do so much DSCR volume and just non-conventional volume in general, a lot of these funds will reach out and say, hey, can you fill this tranche for this amount? And if they ask for that, then they're giving it at a lower price than the rest of the market. So that's when you should really pay attention to what we're talking about on the channel. The other thing too is if your income is still strong, you can still do like full doc, non-conventional type loans too. So that's something to also explore to be able to continue on the full doc channel if you want to kind of lower on the prepays and not deal with as much of the LLC side or whatnot. If you want to do that, then there's other options. Yeah.
And then if you can't go full doc or DSCR, you can call me.
Uncle Steve. He's always plan B, Uncle Steve. He's helped me out many times. All right, we got a question from the Zoom call. Before we go next, we'll go to you next real quick. and I have no idea the answer and don't know who's going to answer it at all, so fuck, this ought to be fun. Advice for S-corps, easiest way to qualify for primaries. I'm not even sure that's a thing.
So primary, we have lenders that'll lend to LLCs and S corporations for primaries, but a lot of times they're not going to want to lend to an entity that you're going to live in. So
Yeah, it's a wrinkle.
But we do have lenders that'll do that. It's just very specific.
And rates will be a little bit higher.
Not really, but it'll
okay.
probably be like an ARM or like something, kind of mid
Funky.
6, high 6. It'll be a little different, yeah.
Yes? S-corps, Stephen?
Primary? Primary?
No, we're not touching that here. This is on video.
I guess we can't be interactive with Zoom, but it's like, are they trying to close and fund it in S corp?
Dude, I have no idea. Move on.
Okay, they might be trying to qualify, and so
That's all I don't know.
I'm an S corp, and so it's like self-employed type
I
stuff.
understand.
So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
could
yeah.
be that, like how they file their taxes and stuff.
Yeah, so that's just a tax return. Okay.
Yeah, these guys and me, like bank statement loans are phenomenal for
That
self-employed
could be,
borrowers.
okay.
So if you're an S corp and you're worried about qualifying, it might just be that, like, yeah, you have $100,000 a month in deposits, qualified bank statement, no problem.
Okay, in other words, call these guys. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Go
just
ahead.
any question, just call us.
Hello. So this question's more for Matt. DTI problems. So I was talking with a local bank about getting a HELoan or HELOC on a primary residence, and they were telling me like my DTI. Well, they said my DTI was getting too high, but they could still do it. And the reason was because basically they were alluding to that because they have a hard cap of a DTI on a 50% for everything. They were saying like your rental properties have to make like double what your mortgage payment is for them to not negatively affect your DTI. Can you like allude into that?
I mean, I'm not a fan of banks. So talking to your bank was your first mistake. Sorry, like, I don't really mean that. I don't not like banks. When it comes to lending, like they're going to be the strictest on most things they do. And so, from a DTI perspective, from a credit score perspective, from how they calculate your rental income perspective, like all of that's going to be the strictest at a bank from what I've seen as a broker. These guys probably would reiterate that. But that information seems weird about your rental like nobody's got not many people have rental properties that, the income is double what the rents are, but, DTI is DTI and math is math. It's I would talk to a couple different people, because we've got like lenders that we can broker to that do HELOCs based on, plug-in and bank statement stuff. Have you guys done like figure stuff before? Where they're super lax, might be a slightly higher rate, but they'll close it in 6 days and, your DTI is not anywhere near what it would be with a bank because they're taking, all 7 of your bank accounts into account.
Well,
so,
unfortunately, the local banks had the best rates on HELOCs. I'm like, wow, these are really good rates, so that's why I went to them.
yeah, sometimes, to be completely honest with you, people talk to me and they're like, this rate is great, I can't get it. And so it's like, well, how great is it? They won't lend you the money. So the rate doesn't matter, where it's like the more flexible lenders at times are more flexible, and to, account for that extra risk because they're more flexible, the rate is 1% higher. So yeah, with HELOCs especially, I have a lot of conversations with people. My local bank, my local credit union, they're doing a special. They're 6%, they're 6.5%. If that works and you qualify for it, great. If you run into a brick wall where they're super strict and they've got some crazy stuff about, DTI, then you probably want to call one of us.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you guys again for being here and answering our questions. My question really is around DSCR loans. If you guys could unpack, what would make a perfect, individual scenario? Like, what are the aspects? Like, hey, credit score, how much equity you want to keep in the property versus take out? What are the kind of the ideal terms? And then maybe you can educate us on what prepayment penalties look like typically when you're structuring one of these debt notes.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest, probably the most popular conversation that we're having regarding DSCR loans is clients wanting to put the least or lowest amount down. And ultimately, DSCR loans aren't necessarily like the product that you go to if you want to just get terms that you can't get from a conventional loan, like 15% down on a DSCR loan. Now we can do that, but if you want the best rate, best terms, simplest, safest, not just when you purchase the property or acquire it, but also having like a safe exit plan, whenever that may be to refi or sell. It's gonna be along the lines of 70%, loan to value, right? Okay. It's gonna be a single family duplex, threeplex, or a fourplex, those are all fine, but mainly using, credit scores over 700. 700 is gonna get you, yeah, it's not an 800, but it's a very big line in the sand between 700 and 699, especially on DSCR. I'll let John talk about the prepay.
Also, loan amounts, if it's typically over 150 or 200, you're going to get better terms than under 200 and 150. We have an investor, and you probably heard it on the channel when I talked about it last week. We have an investor that has a big appetite for under 150, under $100,000 loan amounts. It comes with a cost, but it's still something that is right now, I think, filling a gap in the market because a lot of people have kind of veered away from the smaller loan amounts. In terms of prepays, there's a lot of different structures, right? And if you look at loan docs, whenever you guys get loan docs, always check your prepayment penalty rider. It'll be on there on the structure of the actual prepayment penalty. There's a few. There's like 5% hard prepayment penalties. There's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 step down prepayment penalties. There's 3% hard pre-penalties. There's 6 months of interest prepayment penalty. So a lot of these different prepayment penalties, the more strict it is, the better technically your pricing will be up front. Okay. So a 5-year fixed at 5% prepayment penalty is going to get you slightly better terms than a 5-year fixed at a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Gotcha. And real quick follow-up, if they provide additional documentation kind of proving out their worthiness of the DSCR loan, will any of that drive down price, or is it really just providing the lease and showing the rent coverage kind of ratio?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, if your debt coverage is over 100%, right? That's kind of the baseline to get decent pricing. Okay. Above 1.15 and above 1.25, that's where things kind of get even better. So, okay.
Great. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Nice.
Hello. So recently I contacted a mortgage loan officer looking for a DSCR loan, and I had a pretty good idea of what to expect for a DSCR loan, and we all have a pretty good understanding of a conventional loan, but this loan officer explained to me a different option that was 40 years interest only for a period of time, and I had never even heard about it. I have also heard about, I think a 50-40-10, 10% down where the seller carries part of it. Would you go from Matt to Steve, right? And tell me about a loan product that you guys have available to you that maybe we're not familiar with, something that doesn't fit inside the typical box.
I mean, that's a great question. My first instinct is like, a lot of these products we're like, oh, that's neat, and somebody puts it on a marketing flyer. It's not something you want, just to be completely honest. You get a 40-year IO that converts to a 30-year term at the end of 10 years. It comes with a much higher rate, and by stretching it out 40 years and doing IO, you save $172 a month. But then you'll be 8 years in and not have paid down any principal. So it's like, is that trade-off really worth it? And so, the honest truth is I don't have like some radical product that's never been seen or heard before. But with the products that we do offer, I think where great brokers differentiate themselves from just your average loan officer is like, between the three of us, we've probably had 10,000 conversations from investors specifically on here's what I'm doing, here's how I'm trying to structure it, here's how I get paid, here's what the property looks like. And then from that, we structure something that makes sense, or at least give a couple options for you to say, between this, and like these guys talked about prepays, that's important. A piece of advice I want to give people, because I thought about it as we were talking about prepays, is know what you're doing, know what you're getting into. Like, I'm having these conversations with people, and literally I've had 3 or 4 conversations in the last month where people want to refinance and they forgot they had a prepayment penalty. I'm long-winded? Okay, you want to talk Stephen Dow about 50, 40, 10? Thanks.
Basically, we offer a no-ratio loan. So as far as qualifying, no income documentation as far as tax returns, pay stubs, W-2s, and no DSCR. So I'm kind of like the alternative. When all else fails, call Uncle Steve because I don't care about any of that other stuff. The product that I think maybe you're not aware of, at least with my particular lender, is our Fast 50. More for somebody that's credit challenged. You know, we can go down to 0 score, or even like 417 FICO score. I actually lent to somebody doing that. And based on the 50, 40, 10, in fact, with a 417 FICO, he put 10% down. He got the seller to carry 40%, and the seller credited him towards his closing costs, and he bought down the rate sub 9%, 30-year fixed with a 417 score. So that's kind of, you know, I guess an alternative, but probably not for most of the audience here. I think most of you guys are going to want to, you know, qualify for conventional and DSCR, but when all else fails and you still need the money, that's me. What's that? Correct. This is all investment only. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
So last thing, the 40-year fixed was great when we were writing debt at when if you guys go way back on the channel when we first came on, it was like 3.125 on a 40-year fixed. Now, it's not that. So 9 times out of 10, I'd probably say if it's a 40-year fixed with a 10-year interest only, just do the 30-year fixed with a 10-year interest only. Interest only payment's the same either way. So don't let anyone sway you for 40 versus 30.
And look, we didn't, anytime we have a new product coming out, I promise you we will tell the channel right away. Nothing right now.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so my question is, now that DSCR has been around a long enough time, you know, to where we have real data and time behind it, is there an index that we should be following and a particular spread on the index, like is it a 30-day SOFR or the 5-year Treasury or the 10-year Treasury, whatever, and, for us to just kind of ballpark say, okay, you know, the 30-day SOFR is at 3.72, so I know his, you know, over on average, the DSCR should be around 6.2 or something like that. Anyways, I'm just wondering now that we have enough data, like what is the, you know, now we have enough time, what is the DSCR following and what's the spread on that on average now?
So there is no one exact right now. Every fund's got their own, you know, requisite or what they want between the SOFR, the 10-year, the 5-year, even LIBOR. But right now, the most common would be the 5-year. But I wouldn't look at just the 5-year. It's. I know we keep saying it, but if you do have questions on where DSCR rates are, you know, just give us a call. It really is about Wall Street. Exactly.
I'll be quick, Zuber. My advice is don't overanalyze it. Like, primary is 6%. Investment stuff's about 6.5%. DSCR's in that range too. Find a great deal. The great deal is where millionaires get made. It's not like I followed it and when it was 6.36, I struck and I bought a property. So just property first, have a rough idea of what the rates are like. That's my advice.
This is a question probably more for the conventional side, but anybody can answer. I recently got my real estate license. How can I leverage my commission with you guys? Can I use it as a down payment to pay down the closing costs? How can I use it?
So it's interested party contributions is what you're talking about, total, right? So you can apply that towards the closing cost as a total. Yeah, so it can, full commission, because depending on your state, there's a limitation to how much can be applied, but typically for a primary, it's like 6%. And then for an investment, if you go conventional, it's 2%, but if you go non-conventional, you can get up to 6%.
Okay, so Matt, if I'm house hacking, can I set my commission at 5% and use that as the down payment?
I don't think so. Not on conventional.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah. I did one recently where on FHA, they got 3% commission, got a bunch of seller credit. They came with like 1/2 of 1%. But is 2% the cap on conventional?
Primary is 6%, but the problem is going to be you're trying to apply your commission towards your equity, and a lot of lenders won't underwrite like that. So they're going to put your commission is going to be a part of the IPC, interested party contribution. So that goes along with the seller credits, that goes along with any commissions, anything that you get, right? all of that is encompassed within that IPC. So that's the number you have to track. And then if you're trying to put less down, it's going to be a little more difficult for you to put, 1% down and, have 5% be your commission. Because a lot of people are going to just want to apply it towards your total closing costs. So what you can do, the strategy, if you're thinking that way, is one of two things. You can try to split your commission, right? And have it go towards closing costs and also maybe lower the price a little bit so that your down payment is a little less. But like liquidity right now is a big thing, so you want to make sure that you're not buying things with just like you're putting everything you have into just one property. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, just like everybody else comes back year after year, let's flash the shoes. And again, I have no idea what's inside. I did not even look, so let's see what they got created. There's 4 brackets. There's 2 in the front, 1 on each side. And Dustin and Jonathan, technically, I'm not sure whose is whose, so the sizes may be different. Yeah, there you go. They match. So they, yeah. There you go. Custom. Look at that. That's hilarious. Get the money bag. There you go. That is hilarious. Good job. We're going to have to get Luke up here as the creator of this. We'll do that later today. Make sure we do that. All right. That's all right. I'm going to ask Jonathan and Dustin to stay up here for a minute. Let Matt and Steven head out. Because yesterday we talked about Dana and the wonderful team at Himalayan buying us dinner. Guess who's buying us lunch today? Yay! So let's give them a chance to say some words.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks everyone again. I didn't know we were going to do this right now, but yeah. So one thing me and John definitely try to differentiate ourselves when we're speaking to you guys or any of our clients is making sure that when you guys are analyzing deals and looking at properties and building your buy box, it's using financing and lending and your loan officers as a strategy, not as like just a transaction. It's got to be part of the strategy. You got to know what products are out there. You got to know, like I said earlier, the product that I'm getting or the property that I'm buying